If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21, 10-win streak. Bumping into Lance? This kind of title was something Kairos had thought through carefully before choosing. If he was going to use streaming to attract viewers, the stream title definitely needed to have explosive appeal. If he actually lost, worst case scenario, he'd just give away that 2,056,250 yen red envelope. But then again, losing was impossible. There was no way he'd lose in this lifetime. As Kairos finished configuring his team and started his stream, he also initiated matchmaking for doubles mode. Compared to singles mode, doubles mode had more operational and combination possibilities, naturally testing players' commanding skills and battle understanding more, making it more popular with players. Right now, Kairos quickly matched with an opponent. The opposing trainer's avatar was a boy wearing a straw hat, with the game ID bug types rule the world. As the battle animation played, his opponent sent out two starting Pokémon, a Beedrill and a Beautifly. Kairos figured this was probably a new player, since his team consisted of Beedrill, Beautifly, Butterfree, Gyarados, Dustox, and Venomoth. You could tell he really loved bug-type Pokémon. Thinking this, Kairos glanced at the Pidgeot in his own team fully configured for speed with Choice Band. Bro, liking them is one thing, but you'd better have considered type coverage. Facts proved Kairos's guess was correct. The opponent's 6 bug types didn't have a single move that could effectively hit flying types. After Pidgeot's one-sided massacre, he easily won the battle. By this time, people had gradually started filtering into his stream, about 10 or so total. Most of them were naturally attracted by Kairos's stream title. Another new streamer, this challenge content, is he serious? Will you really give away 2,056,250 yen if you lose one match? Waiting for the streamer to go bankrupt. Why doesn't the streamer have his camera on? Kairos wasn't in a hurry to respond to these comments. Yes, 100% win rate, 0 spending, climb to Master Ball, lose one match and directly give away yen 2,056,250. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. He continued matching for his next opponent. Battle Road was a world-class phenomenon-level popular game with quite a large player base. According to Dream Factory's statistics, the player count was even calculated in the hundreds of millions. Under these circumstances, those who stayed in Pokeball tier were either newbies or people with battle understanding comparable to Terminal Cancer who were just playing for fun. The opponents Kairos matched this afternoon were naturally all of this type. With his basic understanding of combat, he quickly achieved a 10-win streak. His ranking score had also increased substantially, reaching 1950 points. Just one more win would get him to the next tier, Great Ball. After finishing his 10th battle, Kairos tabbed out of the game and added a few words to his stream title. Current win streak, 10. As the title changed and victories continued, viewers in the stream gradually increased, reaching around 70 to 80. Some skeptical comments naturally began appearing. 0 spending can reach Master Ball? Yeah right, if you can reach Ultra Ball, I'll send you a rocket on the spot. Perfect record? Dude, you probably don't know about the game's matchmaking system, do you? People these days will say anything for views, then won't follow through when they lose. Kairos just glanced at these comments without responding, directly setting up a lottery window instead. This kind of stream lottery was under official platform supervision. In other words, once he failed, it would automatically distribute a 2,056,250 yen red envelope in the stream. As soon as the lottery window appeared, the entire stream's atmosphere instantly changed. GG. The streamer came here to do charity. Though the streamer's a good person, I'm really waiting here for you to lose. Actually, you couldn't blame people for reacting this way. Battle Road's matchmaking system was quite intelligent. When you won consecutively in a certain tier, the ranking points gained from each victory would continuously increase. Going from Pokeball to Great Ball normally required at least 50 net wins to advance, but Kairos had only won 10 matches and was just 50 points away from promotion. But correspondingly, once consecutive wins exceeded 10 matches, the opponents you'd match with would also be players with extremely high win streaks. And if you could continue winning under these circumstances, you'd skip several major tiers and match against much stronger top-tier players. This design was naturally intended to prevent people from maliciously smurfing in low tiers. So in the viewer's eyes, the challenge Kairos had set was essentially an impossible mission. At this time, with the traffic brought by the lottery window setup, another wave of people flooded into the stream. Just arrived, how's this streamer's skill level? I watched the last few matches, the streamer's level is actually pretty good. Though he only uses common Pokémon, his operations and commands are quite solid. Pfft, just seal clubbing in Pokeball tier. Once his win streak gets higher, he'll show his true colors immediately. As the chat discussed, Kairos pressed the match button again. This matchmaking took considerably longer, over 10 seconds before showing match found. This time's opponent was a player with red hair and sunglasses, named Dragon types are strongest. Seeing this name, Kairos couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. How was this different from that bug types are strongest from before? Just finished with the bug catcher boy, now came the dragon tamer boy? But soon, he noticed something off. Why was this player's name so bright? Not only was the font dynamic, but it was flashing with cool red light. Right now, the stream chat has completely exploded. Holy crap, it's red name bro. The whale collector is here. Ha 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 streamer, you're done for, you matched with a pay-to-win big shot. Too late to disconnect now, might as well start the red envelope giveaway, streamer. Just got a 10-win streak and matched red name bro, moment of silence. Scanning the chat, Kairos immediately understood. No wonder the name was so flashy, turned out he was a whale. To unlock and collect all Pokémon in this game would cost at least several 100,000 yen, right? But he rolled his shoulders. So what if you spent money? I'm here to beat up you pay-to-win players. Meanwhile, in the Johto region, Goldenrod City. In the study of a certain villa, a red-haired man in a black cape sat in front of his computer. With a handsome face and an aura belonging to the strong. He was none other than the former champion of Kanto and Johto regions, now Dragon-type Elite Four member Lance. Right now, Lance's mouth curved up slightly, clearly in a good mood. The game Red had recommended to him was indeed quite interesting. Just spending a little money, he could experience some Pokémon he'd never raised or encountered before. Playing occasionally in his spare time was quite mood-lifting. It's just that these low-tier players were too weak, making battles somewhat boring. Since he rarely had free time today, he needed to quickly climb the rankings. Maybe, he could even match with old acquaintances like Cynthia later. As Lance pondered, the match successful interface popped up on screen. Looking at the opposing trainer avatar that was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face at night, Lance couldn't help but unconsciously read his opponent's name aloud. Decent person. Chapter 22, It's About Time. To be honest, that username really caught him off guard. He knew Red, the battle master, and he knew Green, the breeding expert, but who the heck was this decent person? While Lance was still scratching his head, the in-game battle had already begun. These high-tier matches that come after win streaks follow the same rules as ranked play. Neither side can see their opponent's team composition beforehand. After a brief selection phase, both sides sent out their starting Pokémon. Lance's team featured a Kommo and a Garchomp, while his opponent brought out a Glimmora and a Pidgeot. As both sides deployed their Pokémon, the chat in Kairos's livestream started lighting up. Classic whale move opening with 2 top-tier pseudo-legendaries. Meanwhile, our streamers got 1 blue and 1 purple. How's he supposed to win this? Just looking at team quality alone, Kairos was completely outclassed, but he didn't seem fazed at all. After 10 battles, he'd gotten the hang of the game's command system and smoothly issued his orders via voice chat. Pidgeot, use Tailwind. Glimmora, charge up Meteor Beam. Following his command, Glimmora on the field immediately folded in on itself as brilliant light began gathering around its body. The charge command takes effect the instant a trainer gives it. This simulates the obvious wind-up animation that charge moves have in real battles, while also giving the opposing trainer a chance to react and respond. After all, moves that require charging time are usually incredibly powerful. Lance stared at the screen, clearly deep in thought. He knew Glimmora well enough if he wasn't mistaken, his opponent was charging Meteor Beam. That move packed a serious punch. While his ground-type Garchomp could resist it, Kommo would have a hard time tanking that hit. What's more, once the opponent successfully pulled off that move, their special attack would increase too, making Glimmora a nightmare to deal with later. The best strategy was to focus fire on it during the charge phase. Even if he couldn't one-shot it, he at least needed to interrupt the charge. Garchomp, rush in and hit it with Stomping Tantrum. Kommo, hit Glimmora with Boomburst to break its focus. With that thought, Lance immediately gave his orders. After both trainers input their commands and the system counted down for several seconds, all 4 Pokémon in the game sprang into action. Pidgeot spread its wings and cried out, beating them to create fierce air currents that swirled around its body, forming strong winds that blew toward Garchomp and Kommo-o. This was the move Tailwind. Once activated, it significantly boosts the speed of allied Pokémon. In real battles, this translates to increased movement speed while using powerful headwinds to slow down opponents. In 2v2 double battles, this was undoubtedly a high-value team support move, and opening with it was definitely the right call. However, after seeing Pidgeot's action, Lance immediately formed an opinion about this player called Decent Person. This was probably just a newbie who got lucky with a win streak and didn't really understand battle strategy. Normally, with charge moves like Meteor Beam, you'd either have your other Pokémon buy time and create opportunities for the charge, or find an opening during intense combat to power up. Having Glimmora charge right at the start without Pidgeot providing cover, instead setting up Tailwind on the side, that was just way too amateur. In Pokémon double battles, the most important thing is having your 2 Pokémon cover for each other and work together. Playing solo like this only leads to one outcome: defeat. Right now, as Pidgeot successfully activated Tailwind, Garchomp was already charging forward with heavy steps, heading straight for the charging Glimmora. Kommo-o also reared its head and roared, visible sound wave rings already hitting Glimmora first. Even though Rock-type resistance to normal-type moves meant Glimmora's HP bar only dropped by less than a quarter. That move successfully disrupted the light gathering around its body. The next instant, Garchomp struck. It raised both claws and stomped down hard, sending Glimmora's HP bar plummeting straight to 0. Though Stomping Tantrum had low base power, this was Garchomp's signature ground-type move, and it dealt quadruple super-effective damage to Rock/Poison-type Glimmora. After one round, Kairos's team was already down a member. The livestream chat erupted with discussion. Gotta hand it to the whales, it's all about that sweat and effort. Effort my ass, this is just terrible commanding from the streamer, isn't it? Charging up right in front of those 2 without having Pidgeot help out, that's just throwing the game away. Yeah, even I couldn't play this badly. One charging while the other sets up Tailwind, what was he thinking? Clearly, after that first round, everyone had written off Kairos's chances. After all, Glimmora was the only purple quality Pokémon on his entire team, and now it was gone without accomplishing anything. What was he supposed to fight with now? However, what they didn't know was, Kairos sat in front of his computer screen, watching the purple light quietly falling from Glimmora's body and rapidly covering Lance's side of the field, and actually cracked a slight smile. Perfect. The team's strongest damage dealer was now ready. Tailwind was up too. It's about time. Meanwhile, Lance naturally noticed the changes on the battlefield as well. His side of the field was now shrouded in purple light, and both Kommo-o and Garchomp were glowing with the same hue, trembling slightly. Purple poison text appeared above their heads. But he wasn't really surprised by this. Glimmora's ability was Toxic Debris. Once hit by a physical attack, it would immediately release toxins, covering the opponent's field in poison. Any Pokémon currently battling or switched in later would enter a poisoned state, continuously losing HP. But there wasn't much to worry about, really. Glimmora's ability had only triggered once, so this level of toxin would only drain less than a tenth of his Pokémon's HP each turn. Going forward, with his numerical advantage, all he needed to do was finish this quickly and keep up the offensive pressure to easily defeat his opponent. While Lance was thinking, Decent Person, as the player who lost a Pokémon first got the right to make a substitution. Both Pidgeot and Glimmora were recalled. The next moment, the 2 Pokémon that appeared before Lance made him freeze in shock. Hey? Wait, who are you 2 supposed to be? Chapter 23, Lance, can someone please do something about this guy? Honestly, you couldn't blame Lance for his reaction, because the 2 Pokémon that had just appeared before him were genuinely pretty rare to see. An Ambipom and a Dedenne. Lance couldn't help but feel puzzled. If he remembered correctly, Ambipom was only a blue quality Pokémon, and Dedenne was even just white quality. In a battle game like this, where Pokémon stats were so important, why would anyone use these kinds of Pokémon in ranked matches? This really must be some lucky newbie player. Meanwhile, Kairos's livestream chat was having a field day. Oh my god, Ambipom, I could maybe understand, but Dedenne too. Does the streamer think this is like some kiddie tournament? Kid, you need to evolve at least one more stage before coming here. Ha 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 ha. Streamer, why don't you just surrender and do a prize pool giveaway instead? In everyone's mind, Dedenne was basically no different from a mascot. Nobody had ever heard of any Elite Four member or champion training one of these things. The reason was simple, Dedenne was just too weak. It was naturally timid with a shallow move pool and didn't even have room for evolutionary improvement. Generally speaking, trainers who had Dedenne simply liked their cute appearance and wanted them as traveling companions. They definitely weren't expecting them to be much use in battle. So seeing Kairos send out Dedenne naturally filled the stream with a cheerful atmosphere. But Kairos ignored all the chat comments and decisively gave his command. Dedenne, Ambipom, use Fling directly on the opponents in front of you. At the same time, on the other side, Lance also spoke up. Garchomp, use Earthquake. Kommo, jump up and hit them with Boom Burst. Earthquake, as an extremely high-power ground-type move, could deal massive damage while hitting any Pokémon standing on the ground, including allies. But if you had Kommo jump up beforehand, it could have avoided the earthquake damage. This was a fairly simple but practical tactical combination. After giving his commands, Lance was actually feeling a bit disappointed. This kind of steamroll battle against a newbie trainer was honestly pretty boring for a champion like him. He should hurry up and climb the ladder to face stronger opponents at higher ranks. While he was thinking, the game finished calculating and the action began. However, the next moment, something completely unexpected happened. Before either dragon could make any move, two objects came flying from far away and wham, hit them square on the head with pinpoint accuracy. Both dragons' HP bars dropped by a barely noticeable amount. Lance looked closer and saw that what had flown over was a worn golden crown and a strangely shaped, sharp fang. A King's Rock and a Razor Fang? So these were items carried by the opponent's Pokémon? While he was thinking, he looked up and discovered that his Garchomp and Kommo were just standing there frozen in place. Two notifications popped up. Garchomp flinched. Kommo flinched. What the hell? After a brief moment of confusion, he immediately figured it out. Right, it must be the Fling move. This move lets Pokémon throw their held items to attack, producing different power and effects depending on what they're carrying. If you threw something like an iron ball with high mass, it would deal significant damage. And the current King's Rock and Razor Fang would cause flinching. This move sounded decent enough, but in actual combat, nobody would ever have their Pokémon use this technique. Because this move was completely one-time use. After using it, it would directly consume the held item. After all, once you threw the thing away, you couldn't exactly go pick it up and throw it again, right? The opponent wasn't an idiot. Why would they just watch you go retrieve it? And yet this one-time move would directly waste a Pokémon's precious and unique held item slot. In most situations, this was a choice where the drawbacks outweighed the benefits. Right now, with Garchomp and Kommo in flinch state, they naturally couldn't act normally, so the game moved directly to the next command round. Lance wasn't worried. This move was basically just stalling for one turn without any real effect, at most using its pitiful damage plus poison to chip away a bit of his team's HP. Next round, he'd like to see how his opponent would handle things. With that thought, Lance gave the exact same commands as the previous round. However, the next moment, the King's Rock and Razor Fang lying on the ground suddenly flew up into the air on their own, switched positions left and right, and flew back to Ambipom and Dedenne. Dedenne's pickup ability activated. Ambipom's pickup ability activated. Lance? Wait, you actually picked them up? Hold on, doesn't this mean? Just as Lance's expression changed and he realized things might not be so simple. The next round had already begun, and under the boost of Tailwind, the two objects once again flew over at incredible speed, striking Garchomp and Kommo. The King's Rock slapped right onto Garchomp's face, while the Razor Fang jammed straight into Kommo's nostril. Their bodies immediately stiffened. Flinch triggered again. What happened next was quite dramatic. With the pickup ability constantly triggering, the two items kept returning, only to be thrown out again and again by Dedenne and Ambipom using Fling. Round after round passed, and Garchomp and Kommo were completely unable to move, only able to watch helplessly as their HP slowly decreased bit by bit. Two mighty dragon-type pseudo-legendaries, reduced to just standing there getting pelted with junk. Plus, with the toxins that Glimmora had laid down earlier, their HP would drop a little extra each turn from poison damage. And so, when the 9th round began, Garchomp and Kommo finally couldn't hold on anymore and collapsed, losing their ability to battle. The Hydreigon and Goodra that Lance sent out next got smacked the moment they entered the field. Lance was completely dumbfounded. Dude, is this how you're supposed to use the pickup ability? In that moment, sitting in front of his computer screen with his expression starting to twist, he finally understood why his opponent had chosen that username. Decent person? This guy definitely has zero decent whatsoever. Can someone please do something about this guy? Chapter 24, An Unexpected Bonus? Meanwhile, in Kairos's live stream, he stretched and explained to his viewers. Alright, so that strategy was successfully executed. The core concept is actually pretty simple. First, deliberately use Glimora's Meteor Beam Charge as a threat to draw the opponent's attention and make them focus fire on Glimora right away. This triggers its Toxic Debris ability, poisoning all current and future Pokémon on the opponent's field. At the same time, this creates a diversion to cover Pidgeot, setting up Tailwind before switching out, then bringing in 2 Pokémon with the pickup ability. The pickup ability lets them recover and exchange consumed items between each other, creating an infinite loop. As for why I chose Dedenne and Ambipom, their speed stats are among the best of all Pokémon that can learn Fling. Combined with the Tailwind boost, it lets Fling hit first and cause flinch, interrupting the opponent's actions. Of course. You could also say Dedenne is just really cute, and I wanted to let it have some fun. Getting bonked by such an adorable Pokémon probably won't make you too mad. As Kairos explained, on screen, Hydreigon and Goodra had already dropped below half health while unable to move. His opponent, unable to bear the humiliation, chose to surrender. The victory screen appeared along with rank promotion animations. Kairos rubbed his nose with some regret. Ah, they left already. I wasn't done throwing stuff yet. At that moment, the chat in Kairos's stream completely exploded. Holy crap! Can the pickup ability be used like that? Is the streamer some kind of poet? How do you even think up such an insane strategy? Low damage, maximum insult. A full red team got steamrolled like that? Someone pinch my thigh and tell me I'm dreaming. My address is 26 3rd Street, Saffron City, Kanto. Today I finally learned that people really do laugh when they're speechless. Clearly, Kairos is ahead of its time. Tactical thinking would be jaw-dropping not just in this Battle Road game, but even in real trainer battles. Who could have imagined you could get so creative with a fling move? After Kairos won, he tabbed out to update his stream title to show 11 wins and added a note about reaching Great Ball rank. Just then, a series of notifications suddenly appeared before his eyes. Ding! Congratulations, host, your actions caused surprise, shock, and other emotions in stream viewers, earning 20 emotion points. 20 points? Kairos glanced at the notification without much interest. The stream didn't have that many viewers yet, so naturally, the corresponding emotion points weren't much either. He wasn't worried, though once he built up the stream's reputation and attracted more viewers, the earnings from each stream would naturally grow larger and larger. But just as he was thinking, another golden notification popped up. Ding! Congratulations, host, your actions caused the special character Dragon Master Lance to experience intense surprise, helplessness, and frustration. Converted to 370 emotion points. Seeing this notification, Kairos paused for a moment before immediately realizing what had happened. Ah! So, that player called Dragon's Rule All was actually Lance? No wonder he was so loaded. And no wonder he picked that username. At the same time, he realized something else. So, on his very first match using this strategy, he'd just outplayed the former Kanto champion. Wait, no, you couldn't call it outplaying. This should be called using reasonable and brilliant tactics to claim victory in an intense, thrilling battle. Yeah, that's it. With that thought, Kairos glanced at his viewer count. Great, the stream numbers were already surging, reaching over 700 people. Only less than 300 away from the quest requirement of 1000. Without hesitation, he hit the matchmaking button again. Now, let's welcome the next victim. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Lance was slumped in his computer chair, looking dazed. A champion like himself came to play a battle game and lost in the Great Ball rank? And it was a complete 6-0 sweep too. Thinking about it carefully, Glimora might have been deliberately sacrificed. It was like a veteran MMO player in full endgame gear getting kicked to death by a stray dog in the starting village. But a champion was still a champion. Faced with defeat, he quickly adjusted his mindset and began analyzing his opponent's strategy. This strategy was indeed brilliant. The interaction between the pickup ability and fling move created nearly permanent crowd control. But thinking more carefully, the real core of the opponent's strategy wasn't actually these elements, but that one tailwind move. After all, only by having fling hit first could you use flinch status to interrupt the opponent's actions. And tailwind, as an incredibly powerful team buff, actually required significant setup time. Experienced trainers who spotted a potential tailwind user would immediately be on guard, ready to prevent the move from going off. But back then, he'd been distracted by something else. That charging Glimmora. No wonder the opponent had Glimmora start charging right away. The goal was to force him to focus on Glimmora, thereby ignoring Pidgeot's presence. Looking back now, he'd been completely led around by the nose, falling right into the trap and losing because of it. With that realization, Lance suddenly frowned. Such strong battle sense, such brilliant tactical combinations. Just who was this opponent called decent person? Why had he never heard of them before? But regardless, one thing was certain: the opponent was definitely an extremely strong trainer in the real world. They might even be a champion from some region, just like him. With that thought, Lance screenshot the battle record along with the decent person ID and posted it to a group chat called Champions and Elite Four Family. Dragon Supreme, could everyone take a look and see if you recognize this person? Their tactics were brilliant. I'd like to exchange ideas with them. The next moment, the quiet group chat suddenly came alive. GA_Oppo, oh? Isn't that the game? You can actually lose in Great Ball rank with that lineup? How embarrassing. Dragon Supreme, shut it, old hag, you'd lose too. GA_Oppo, look, he's getting worked up again. Flying Snow Fox, pfft. Lorelei, hey, what happened today to make things so lively? Chapter 25, Elite Group Chat, Quest Rewards? 2-in-1. Clearly, this was a special group chat that brought together Elite Four members and champions from various regions. You could basically say the world's strongest trainers were all gathered here. Since people at their level had busy schedules every day, this group was usually pretty quiet. But once something interesting happened, everyone who'd been lurking would suddenly pop up. Just like right now. As more and more people started speaking up and asking Lance about the specifics, he simply downloaded the in-game battle as a video file and forwarded it to the group. Dragon Supreme, I ran into someone who used a really interesting strategy. You should all take a look. Once the video was posted, the group went quiet again. Clearly everyone was watching seriously. A few minutes passed before people started posting their reactions. Flying Snow Fox, using 2 Pokémon's pickup ability for infinite crowd control loops. While it'd be hard to pull off in real life, the concept is genuinely interesting. Deep Sea, just thinking about Lance getting pelted with junk for an entire match makes me lose it. GA_Oppo, ha 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 ha. Everyone here was a trainer at this level, so they naturally saw through the opponent's tactical thinking and design at a glance. They had to admit that even though it was just a game, there was genuine brilliance to it. Dragon Supreme, you've all had your laughs, so could you please give me some information about this decent person? I really want to meet them. GA_Oppo, you better actually want to meet them, not challenge them to an offline match. Lorelei, I think you should ask the high-ranking players in our group, they might know this person. Darkness Rising, the highest ranked in our group should be Red and Cynthia, but Red's probably out training somewhere and can't be reached right now, why not ask Cynthia? Pure White at Strawberry Ice Cream. GA_Oppo at Strawberry Ice Cream. As someone suggested, everyone started tagging Cynthia, but 2 minutes passed with no response from her. Someone with a Charizard avatar suddenly appeared and posted a long message. Don't call me Fire-type Afro, don't bother tagging her, can't reach her lately. I thought she was on some mission at first, but when I logged into the gaming platform, I realized she seems addicted to some game, always showing as online. The game's called something like Pokémon Emerald? I don't get what's so appealing about it that she'd even skip Battle Road, which she loves, for several days now. GA_Oppo, thanks for the intel, Fire-type Afro. Don't call me Fire-type Afro, I'm flying over on Dragonite Air to challenge you to a duel, I'll be there in a few minutes, you better not run. Dragon Supreme, count me in. After sending that message, Lance exited the group chat. He'd hoped to use the group's network to find information about this decent person's identity so he could get to know them. Looks like he'd have to wait until he could contact Cynthia or Red to ask around. While thinking, he suddenly remembered something else. Right. Earlier in the group, Sinoa's Fire-type Elite Four member Flint mentioned that Cynthia had been obsessing over another game recently. But based on his impression of Cynthia, she wasn't really into video games. The only reason she played Battle Road was because it helped improve her battle understanding and Pokémon knowledge, not because she actually enjoyed gaming. So what kind of magic did that game have to make even Cynthia get sucked in and ignore messages? Lance grew more and more curious. He was on vacation anyway, so why not give it a try? What was that game called again? Something like Pokémon Emerald? He opened the search bar and started typing based on his memory. An hour later, in Kairos's live stream, as his opponent chose to surrender, he'd successfully completed his 15th consecutive win. His game rank had also reached Ultra Ball. But what disappointed him was that the opponents he'd matched with in recent games didn't have the same status and background as Lance in the first match. They were just high-ranking players. So they hadn't provided him with any extra emotion points. Still, by now he'd achieved his streaming goal. Kairos glanced up at the viewer count in the top right corner of the stream. It had reached 1,200 people, exceeding the system quest requirement. So Kairos cleared his throat. All right, everyone, that's it for today's challenge. Tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m., I'll continue streaming. With that, he directly closed the stream, leaving over 1,000 viewers completely bewildered. Stream's over already? Dude, you only streamed for less than 2 hours, right? Just when you're getting popular, you're not gonna make money. Did he run away because he's scared of losing and having to do a red envelope giveaway? What they didn't know was that Kairos only streamed to harvest more emotion points, buy modules, and further develop his game. Now that the quest was complete and he'd gotten the points, naturally, he needed to go back and continue making his game. At that moment, in his rental apartment, he stood up from his desk and stretched, glancing at the notification in front of him. You have obtained points converted from shock, joy, frustration, anger, and other emotions from stream viewers and matched opponents, totaling 100 points. Nearly 3 hours of streaming for only 100 points. The cost-benefit ratio definitely wasn't high. Fortunately, the main reward from this stream came from elsewhere. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have completed the side quest part-time activity, C. Quest rewards have been distributed. Obtained 200 emotion points. Obtained basic module text decryption module. Text decryption module? Looking at the notification, Kairos felt like this module seemed familiar, so he tried to remember. Oh, right. This was the one that could convert real ancient texts into in-game rune inscriptions, adding historical authenticity to games. He could also understand and use any human civilization's language. This module could obviously only add Polish to game development, but considering its original price of over 200 points, as a random reward, it wasn't a loss. Just as Kairos was thinking, a new notification suddenly popped up. Ding! Due to the host's excellent quest completion, you have received a bonus reward. You have obtained basic module upgrade card. B. Consumable. After using this card, you can upgrade any owned basic module. Looking at the notification, Kairos raised an eyebrow slightly. A quest actually came with an unexpected bonus? He focused on that card, falling into thought. This card could upgrade any basic game development module, and to maximize its cost-effectiveness, the first thing he thought of was upgrading that production efficiency enhancement module. This module could boost his speed when making all types of games going forward, and from personal experience, the efficiency improvement after purchasing it was quite noticeable. Back then, to buy this module, he'd spent a full 450 emotion points, far more expensive than other basic modules. From this, he could judge that when this module reached intermediate level, its purchase price and effects would far exceed other intermediate modules. That would probably be a difference measured in the thousands. With that thought, Kairos didn't hesitate to consume the card and directly chose to upgrade the production efficiency enhancement module. The next moment, the system notification appeared. Ding! Congratulations, module upgrade successful. A golden glowing controller icon refreshed before his eyes. Production efficiency enhancement module, intermediate. Description: your efficiency in creating any type of game will be significantly improved, and emotion points gained from all games will increase by 30%. Looking at the notification, Kairos's eyes lit up. Sure enough, he'd made the right choice. Not only would all game development efficiency improve further, but there was also a bonus point acquisition buff. And 30% wasn't insignificant either. He closed the notification panel with satisfaction, and at the same time, a new quest refreshed before his eyes. Ding! Main quest obtained, Rookie Champion, S. Quest requirements: make your created game successfully win the New Game Festival Championship position. Quest rewards: 2000 emotion points, random advanced production module X1, special system item chest, A, X1. Quest description: rumor has it a new game came to the New Game Festival, its content is explosive, everyone who's played it is flying high. After scanning through this quest information, Kairos nodded slightly. 2000 emotion points plus a random advanced production module, plus a system item chest, these rewards were quite generous. And becoming New Game Festival champion was already his goal anyway, so this was basically the system giving him free rewards. He took a deep breath. There was still a month until the New Game Festival ended. Within this month, he not only needed to complete the Sinnoh region, Hone region maps, and first and second playthrough content for Insane Mode, but he also needed to create Standard Mode content. Unlike Insane Mode's focus on difficulty and challenge, Standard Mode emphasized story and gameplay experience. Based on the original, Kairos had many new ideas to implement. This was also why he'd started with Insane Mode. Because only by unlocking enough modules could he create the true Emerald Standard Mode he envisioned. So now, Kairos opened his status panel. Including the rewards just received from the quest, plus his previous savings, his emotion point balance had reached just over 1,300. This number looked high, but actually, it wasn't quite enough to buy even a cheaper intermediate module. Like the advanced CG module that costs 1,400 points. With that thought, Kairos shook his head slightly. Better to honestly make games and save up emotion points. He sat back down at his computer, about to start working, when a string of notifications suddenly popped up. Ding! Special character Lance experienced surprise, confusion, and fondness emotions toward your game. You have obtained 100 emotion points. Looking at this notification, Kairos paused. Lance had just been tormented by him and immediately went to play Emerald. He thought about it but couldn't find any connection between these two things. He was certain Lance didn't know Emerald was actually made by him, since the system strictly protected his identity. So, this was purely a coincidence? Whatever, it didn't matter. He could only say thanks to Boss Lance for delivering emotion points. What a generous boss. After silently thanking Lance, Kairos directly chose to spend all his points to unlock the advanced CG module. From now on, he could directly use this module to create special Blu-ray HD CGs. Combined with the ancient text translation module he'd just obtained. Kairos suddenly had a bold idea. Originally, tonight, he'd planned to focus entirely on creating Petalburg City and Movili City content. But now it seemed some things could be arranged ahead of schedule. With that thought, he directly created a new folder on his desktop. DesertRuins.Regirock.Route 111. Meanwhile, in Jubilife City, the Sinnoh region. At Dream Factory headquarters, in a conference room. A group of well-dressed young men and women sat in the room, talking among themselves and venting their dissatisfaction. Boss B is really disgusting, calling back even people on vacation. Totally insane. Paying us peanuts for a month and still expecting us to work ourselves to death. If I had better options, I would have quit long ago. Sigh, the gaming industry is in rough shape. Even Dream Factory is like this, where else can we go? Other companies pay so little, it all goes to rent and living expenses. At this point, a slightly older man spoke up. All right, let's talk about something real. What do you all think about that game? At these words, everyone immediately perked up with interest. You mean Emerald he sent us? Honestly, I think it's really well made, very creative and high quality. Definitely. Polished graphics, rich content, and the turn-based battle concept is good. Too bad the boss has his eye on it. Yeah. I bet he called us in today to copy their stuff again, throw money at it, update faster than the original, and slowly squeeze them to death. That bast *RD Nova, it's not the first time he's pulled this crap. Sigh, feel sorry for that game studio. Just when they were getting somewhere, they're about to get crushed. Chapter 26, Meticulously Crafted Caves, Trash Collecting Champion Ayano. While everyone in the conference room was discussing, a figure pushed open the door and walked in. This person was none other than Dream Factory's boss, Nova. The moment he entered, everyone unanimously fell silent. There was no choice, anyone could badmouth him behind his back, but nobody dared say a word to his face. After all, this was their direct supervisor, and nobody joked around with their livelihood. Nova sat down at the front of the round table and swept his stern gaze over everyone. Have you all looked at what I sent you? Does anyone have questions? As soon as he finished speaking, a slightly overweight man, trembling, raised his hand and spoke. Boss, while their pixel art technique isn't much stronger than ours, it is pretty impressive. Our art team probably can't catch up to or surpass their level in the short term. How about we don't do pixels like them, but switch to 3D or 2D instead? After all, pixel games aren't our specialty. Nova frowned when he heard this. If we're going to completely crush them, we have to make exactly the same thing and do it better than them. He looked up at everyone. I'm investing 1.6 billion yen into this project for development. Your departments can divide it up yourselves. I'm giving you 1 week to make something better than theirs. Can you do it? Everyone present lit up when they heard this 1.6 billion yen in funding. Even though this money would ultimately be spent on the game, the boss had rarely been this generous. After all, Nova was normally such a penny pincher, he wouldn't even pay proper overtime. And now everyone had this much money to develop a pixel game. This was basically like using a cannon to kill a mosquito. No matter what, they were top talent in the game development industry. With sufficient funding, achieving this would naturally be no problem. At most, the timeline was a bit tight. As for whether this kind of plagiarism, even stealing the spotlight, would corrupt their conscience, they could only say that, knowing this was dirty work, they really had no choice. When you're under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Moreover, anyone who couldn't accept this sort of thing had already been fired on their first day at Dream Factory. At this moment, another person at the round table raised their hand, a young man with round glasses who looked young but already had a bald spot. Clearly, this was a programmer. He looked troubled as he said, "Boss, their game code isn't that advanced, but the AI they've integrated." The man held up his phone with his other hand, playing the video of Ayano having voice interactions with NPCs and her own Pokémon in Emerald. Nova glanced at him and snorted coldly. "Ren, and you call yourself our lead programmer? You don't actually believe that, do you? Programming has made you stupid. That's obviously fake AI fixed responses triggered by commands. Besides us, which game company on the market has mastered AI technology? What's the current state of this stuff, don't you all know?" The programmer named Ren seemed like he wanted to say more, but Nova cut him off directly. "Doesn't the AI R&D department have new breakthroughs? Just integrate our new AI. Add some command-based responses, and it'll definitely be better than their fake AI." Since Nova had spoken, Ren could only nod obediently. "All right, boss." Nova lit a cigar and stood up. "Fine, get to work. Within a week, I want to see your results. Before our Pokémon World releases, your game's progress must be more than twice ahead of Emerald. Remember, this is very important to the company. Anyone who can't deliver can get lost." Night was falling. Kairos let out a long breath and clicked the upload button, completing this update. After upgrading the production efficiency module, he found his game development speed was much faster than he'd originally imagined. Just this evening alone, he'd successfully created the maps for Duford Town, Granite Cave, and Slateport City. Actually, if he'd worked at normal speed, there would have been enough time to complete both the rival battle and the battle with Paul. But this time, Kairos spent a large portion of his time on one thing: the cave for the rock titan Regirock. Based on his memory, people in this world didn't seem to understand the existence of legendary Pokémon. Many people didn't even know most legendaries existed. Under these circumstances, he was very curious how many emotion points would his carefully crafted content bring? Speaking of which, Kairos opened the sales backend to check the game's sales numbers and was surprised to find sales had reached over 18,000 copies. Clearly, as he'd predicted, Emerald's reputation was gradually spreading across the internet. If not for the game's high price of 5,927 yen, this sales figure would probably be 10 times higher. Sigh, he wondered when he'd be able to actively price his games. If this were a free game, he didn't dare imagine how many copies it could sell. But high prices had their benefits too. Kairos glanced at his bank account balance of over 82 million yen and couldn't help but smile slightly. Life was getting better. With this much money, he definitely wouldn't keep living in this crappy rental. He could move somewhere with better scenery. So where should he go? How about checking out the Hone region? He'd heard the scenery there was pretty nice. Just as Kairos was thinking, he suddenly realized something. Wait, where was Litwick? He hadn't seen him since this afternoon. He thought about it. Litwick seemed to have gone out to play and had greeted him before leaving, but he'd been absorbed in work at the time and hadn't paid much attention. Actually, it was pretty normal for Litwick to want to go out and play. According to his description, he'd been stuck in a dark, terrifying space before. Now that he'd finally come to the outside world, he'd naturally be curious about everything around him. He'd wait for Litwick to return and talk about moving tomorrow. Kairos stretched. He'd have to remind Litwick when he got back it was fine to go out and play, but don't let anyone see him. Otherwise, a ghost-type Pokémon without a trainer appearing in the city could scare plenty of people half to death. In Ayano's live stream, "Marry up, use Thunder Shock." Along with Ayano's extremely excited command, a bolt of electricity flashed by, an Archon's figure fell from the air, its HP bar emptied, completely losing its ability to battle. Roxanne's figure appeared. "Your perseverance is as admirable as rock itself. Even over 100 failures couldn't stop you. Please continue forward, I believe you can go much further." As the knuckle badge appeared on screen, Ayano couldn't help but let out a celebratory cheer. Yet. Finally beat it. The chat in her stream started scrolling. How moving, how many resets was that? Must have been 100 at least. Didn't you see what Roxanne said? It's already over 100 times, she even moved the NPC. Ha 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 ha, I suspect Roxanne couldn't help but go easy on her. Congrats streamer, congrats streamer. Through over 100 battles, Ayano had finally found a perfect timeline and barely claimed victory in the gym battle. The first thing she did after finishing the battle was activate voice interaction to praise all 3 Pokémon on her team. Yes, 3 Pokémon, not 2. After discovering that 2 Pokémon simply couldn't beat Roxanne, Ayano had to make another trip around Petalburg Woods and was lucky enough to encounter a Pikachu, which she successfully caught. Marry up, beautiful finish. Pikachu, your paralysis was super clutch, I wouldn't have known how to deal with that Archon otherwise. Joltik, high five. Her face was radiant with a brilliant smile, she was clearly genuinely happy right now. After claiming victory in the gym battle, Ayano didn't continue pushing forward with the game's progress like Cynthia had, but instead stopped in Rustboro City. She explained her thoughts to her viewers. Being able to win this time, the berries' recovery effects were actually pretty key, but I found those berries when I was wandering around randomly. So I'm thinking, might this game have placed some items that players can pick up or obtain in other places too? The next opponents are going to be tough anyway, so might as well prepare properly before continuing. With that, she started searching systematically, beginning with the first room in the bottom left of Rustboro City. As it turned out, through Ayano's trial and error approach, she seemed to have discovered an important gameplay mechanic. Namely, useful and valuable items could be lying around anywhere on the roadside. NPCs in rooms might also have unexpected rewards if you just chatted with them. In just a few dozen minutes, Ayano had turned over almost all of Rustboro City, with quite impressive results. Stardust and Pearl that could be sold for money. Quick Claw is a held item that gives Pokémon a chance to ignore speed differences when attacking. A precious evolution stone that could evolve grass type's Leaf Stone. Even a home that could teach Pokémon the special move Cut. Besides these, there was a whole bunch of miscellaneous small items like potions and berries. Ayano briefly organized her bag and went to the shop, selling everything she couldn't use, including the Leaf Stone. The 15,000 yen debt in the top left instantly became a positive 10,000 yen. Seeing this scene, Ayano couldn't help but smile. I knew at the game's this hard, the developer would at least leave players some way to survive. The chat was scrolling rapidly. Reborn, I am the Supreme Trash King. Shocking. Famous electric-type gym leader streamer actually makes a living collecting trash. What cruel truth lies behind this? The streamer's like a bandit, going into people's houses and rummaging through everything. Isn't there an officer Jenny to arrest her? Seeing these comments, Ayano couldn't help but blush slightly and cough softly, defending herself. In games, you can't call it collecting trash. This is called reasonable resource utilization. Then came incomprehensible words like trainers must be frugal and training Pokémon costs money too, making all the viewers burst into laughter, filling the stream inside and out with a cheerful atmosphere. After ransacking Rustboro City, Ayano was about to leave when she suddenly noticed a rundown little house in a corner of the city that she seemed to have missed before. Her eyes immediately lit up. Her intuition told her there might be good stuff inside. After all, the more precious items she had found before were often the hardest to locate. The valuable stuff was all dug out from nooks and crannies. She immediately excitedly controlled her character to enter that house, but the scene that greeted her was somewhat disappointing. Inside the room, there wasn't even furniture, just an empty table and a middle-aged man sitting behind it. Clearly, this didn't look like a place that would have any hidden items. Just as Ayano was about to leave disappointedly, an exclamation mark appeared above the middle-aged man's head, and he quickly walked forward. "Hello, young lady. Have you by any chance seen her?" The man handed over a photo showing a blonde young girl holding a shroomish with a brilliant smile. "She's my daughter Alice. She came to this region to travel a month ago, but suddenly disappeared. I'm searching everywhere for her now." The man's voice was full of anxiety and urgency, his haggard, stubble-covered face showing expectation, as if he really wanted to get some information from Ayano. Faced with this situation, Ayano tried hard to remember but could only press the interaction button and answer softly. "Sorry, I haven't seen your daughter either, but I'll be traveling in this region next. Don't worry. If I find her, I'll definitely bring her to see you." Hearing this, the man slumped back into his chair, the light in his eyes instantly dimming. "All right, young lady, sorry for bothering you," he murmured softly, with infinite pain. "Sigh, what should I do? I don't have the money to go to the next city anymore. Alice, my Alice, where are you? Daddy misses you so much." Hearing this, Ayano fell silent for several seconds. She suddenly input a command. On screen, her character walked forward and placed a money pouch on the table. Then she walked out of the room. At this moment, her character's balance in the top right corner of the screen had completely zeroed out. "I'd probably just lose this money anyway, might as well leave it for someone who needs it. That uncle must really miss his daughter." The stream chat immediately started scrolling frantically. "Holy crap, I'm tearing up. Streamer's really kind. I support you. This is why I like Ayano, her values are genuinely good. There might be scammers in games too. What if he's trying to con your money? Yeah, clearly doesn't know how cruel society is." Just as the chat was debating whether Ayano had done right or wrong, the door of that rundown house behind Ayano suddenly opened. The middle-aged man rushed out with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, miss, really thank you. With this much money, I can go look for her again. This is our family's heirloom gem. Please accept it." With that, he pressed a small box into Ayano's hands and hurried away. Ayano paused, looking at the box. Inside lay what looked like a glass ball, a small round stone that was pale purple mixed with red and yellow spirals. What was this? As Ayano wondered, a brilliant golden notification suddenly popped up on the screen. Item, Mega Amphericite, Special. Description, a mysterious stone that might unleash incredible power. Chapter 27, Stunning Quality Cutscene CG, Cynthia's Fighting Type Journey. Looking at those two notification lines, Ayano was clearly still pretty dazed. Honestly, she was completely confused right now. Ampheros Megastone? What the heck was that? What did it mean by can unleash special effects in battle? Obviously, she'd never heard of anything like this before. But based on the game's description, this had to be some kind of exclusive held item for Ampheros, right? Or maybe it was some kind of consumable that could provide instant buffs during battle. Whatever. Since it was something Ampheros could use, she'd hold on to it for now. Once her Fluffy evolved into Ampheros and tried it on, she'd know exactly what it did, right? With that thought, Ayano shook her head slightly. Her reason for helping this NPC wasn't for the reward in the first place. Even if he gave her nothing, she would have done it willingly. After all, who could bear not to help a father desperately searching for his missing daughter? Meanwhile, in Viridian City, Kairos, exhausted from creating today's game content, collapsed onto his bed. Litwick hadn't returned yet, seemed like it was having a blast outside. Since it wasn't midnight yet and he couldn't fall asleep, he figured he'd grab his phone, open Ayano's stream, and see how far this gym leader had progressed in the game. But as soon as he clicked in, he witnessed the moment she obtained the Ampheros Megastone. This left Kairos somewhat surprised. Since people in this world hadn't developed Pokémon research very extensively, they naturally had no idea that Mega Evolution existed. So Kairos had made some preparations and contingencies in the game. Not only would he later arrange various Mega Evolution stones in hidden item caches across different regions, but when creating Rustboro City's content, he'd placed a small house in the lower left corner and added an NPC searching for his daughter. As long as players were willing to pay to help him, and the amount exceeded 10,000 yen, they could obtain a Mega Stone for any Mega-capable Pokémon in their party. If there were no Mega Evolution-capable Pokémon in the party, they'd get a random stone. On the surface, 10,000 yen for a Mega Evolution Stone seemed like an absolute steal, but actually triggering this reward was quite challenging. Because it tested the player's compassion and kindness. Earning that much money in the early game wasn't easy at all. Even someone like Ayano, who turned Rustboro City upside down, only made around 10,000 yen. Keep in mind, for players, this was all one-time income. Without this money, entering the next area without being able to buy healing items, status cures, and various tools would make the road ahead incredibly difficult and nearly impossible. So very few people would be willing to give away so much money in this situation to help an in-game NPC. But clearly, Ayano had done exactly that. And her kindness earned her the reward she deserved. You could call it good karma, right? A slight smile crept across Kairos's lips. He had to admit, he was really looking forward to Ayano's reaction when she first successfully Mega Evolved her Ampharos. But to complete Mega Evolution, just having the Evolution Stone obviously wasn't enough. She'd also need another crucial item called a Key Stone. Only by combining both could the Mega Stone unleash its mysterious bond power, allowing Pokémon to achieve Mega Evolution. When should he arrange for her to get that item? Kairos fell into thought. Meanwhile, on the Seduct platform, Cynthia's stream went live again. She sat in front of the screen, her expression serious. Today was supposed to be a rest day, but this afternoon, some high-danger anomalous disturbances occurred in the Sinnoh region's mystery zones, and she had no choice but to help out. After resolving that situation, most of the day was already gone. Tomorrow there might be another mission, so tonight she had to make the most of her time and push her game progress as far as possible. Cynthia took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. While there was no doubt that, with her champion-level battle understanding, she should be among the top players progress-wise. But as Emerald videos and various news spread online, more and more players were buying the game. Among these players, there would definitely be those types who'd sit in front of their computer screens 24/7, practically wanting to dive headfirst into the game. Compared to them, she had way too little available playtime. If the recent incidents didn't absolutely require her intervention, she'd almost consider requesting a few days of leave from the league. Forget it, better make every minute and second count. With that thought, her game successfully launched, and a flood of viewers poured into her stream. Cynthia, breaking news. That Ayano streamer next door spent forever collecting items in Rustboro City and made over 20,000 yen in one go. Bold move, actually telling the champion to go dumpster diving. What's wrong with dumpster diving? Today on Battle Road, there was even a mysterious streamer using trash-throwing strategies, going 15-0 with a zero-spend team. Do you understand the value of dumpster diving? Cynthia glanced at the chat, somewhat puzzled. Battle Road? Zero-spend streamer? Trash-throwing strategies? Whatever. Ever since Emerald came out, Battle Road hadn't been that important anyway. She didn't even feel like logging in anymore. However, she did pick up some useful information from these comments. Namely, each city area would have some hidden items to collect, or NPCs who'd give rewards after talking with them. She was rushing to catch up on progress now and had already boarded Old Man Hachi's boat, so going back to Rustboro City was definitely out of the question. She'd just have to keep an eye out for any items around her during future travels. Actively searching for them was off the table, though. While thinking this over, Cynthia suddenly noticed her screen had gone black. In its place was a video cutscene. This time it wasn't pixel art, but high definition, high frame rate, flawless video quality like a movie. Under clear skies, a vast, endless ocean sparkled with white-capped waves. A small boat leisurely sailed across the waves. In the sky above, countless blue and white wing-ul danced joyfully, occasionally diving to the surface to snatch fresh fish. Tentacle drifted with the current. A few goldeen leaped from the water, creating splashes. The gentle, soothing music combined with the dreamlike visuals even made Cynthia feel momentarily entranced. She could practically feel the sea breeze blowing against her face. After several seconds, the scene faded. The in-game boat docked at a pier, and she slowly came back to her senses. That was a game cutscene. That quality, those effects. For a moment there, she actually felt like she was really out on the ocean. As Cynthia sat there amazed, her stream chat naturally exploded. Holy crap, what kind of quality is this? That was just a transition cutscene. Watching that made me feel like I was actually on a boat. Today I finally understand what it means when they say the budget is on fire. That scene probably cost at least 1 million yen to make, right? If you can make transition CGS look this good, why even bother with games? Just go make movies. With visuals like that, I'd watch it even if you served up the most ridiculous plot. As a stream of comments flew by, Cynthia gradually snapped back to reality. She thought she'd already understood and mentally prepared for this game's quality level. But every time this game showed something new, it still managed to surprise her. With that realization, she shook her head slightly. According to the in-game story, Cynthia had helped an old man named Hachi in a tunnel above Rustboro City, rescuing his wing ul from Team Aqua members, earning his offer of free ferry transport to Duford Town. And now, after disembarking from Hachi's boat, Duford Town's scenery came into view. This was a small island town in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by water on all sides. The sound of the sea breezes, rhythmic electronic music, combined with some quaint, traditional-style buildings on the island. Just standing here looking at these sights seemed enjoyable in itself. The town's buildings and surrounding scenery were once again beautifully crafted, but after that cinema-quality cutscene, these visuals seemed almost ordinary in comparison. Cynthia didn't waste time and directly opened the map, locating the town's gym, the second gym she needed to challenge according to the storyline, Duford Gym. The battles along the way had leveled all her Pokémon to 19, and Loaded had successfully evolved into Lombra, bringing her one step closer to its final form, Ludicolo. She just didn't know where she'd find the water stone needed to evolve Lombra again. Speaking of which, considering the previous gym's difficulty level, Cynthia didn't expect to win on her first attempt, so this gym challenge was more about gauging the gym leader's situation. At the very least, she needed to understand their first Pokémon's information to formulate appropriate tactics for future challenges. But when Cynthia arrived at the gym entrance, she found a young man in fighting gear standing at the door, directly blocking her path. "You're here to challenge the gym, right? Our leader went to train in Granite Cave, so please come back later." Of course, you could go directly to Granite Cave to find him, but Granite Cave is full of dangerous Pokémon and pitch black inside. If you don't have the skills, I'd suggest you just wait it out. After speaking, the man returned to his position in front of the door and said nothing more. Granite Cave. Cynthia muttered, checking the map to find that there was indeed a large black shadow on this island. This cave was even bigger than Duford Town itself. So, according to the storyline, she'd need to explore this cave and find the Duford gym leader before she could have her gym battle. Recalling what the man had said about the cave's conditions, Cynthia thought it over and decided to first look around town to see if she could find any useful items. And so, after checking various rooms around town, she actually found several useful items, including a held item called a focus band. Effect: when the Pokémon holding it takes fatal damage, there's a small chance it will hang on with 1 HP. Seeing this item, Cynthia's expression was honestly a bit complex. This thing's effect looked kind of familiar. Wasn't this basically a clutch survival mechanism? But considering the potential difficulty of upcoming battles, a clutch save at a critical moment could definitely turn the tide. So this held item should still be pretty useful. She equipped it on her team's strongest damage dealer Stufful. The other items were pink hyper potions that could restore 200 HP to a Pokémon in one use, escape ropes for quickly leaving caves, and various colored shards and star pieces. Cynthia didn't know what the latter two did, but when she visited the shop, she found they sold for decent prices, so she sold half of them. With that money, she bought some status condition cures and healing items from the shop, then entered Granite Cave north of Duford Town. Granite Cave seemed quite expansive inside, and from the second floor onward, Cynthia was greeted by total darkness. Her character could only explore the surrounding terrain and environment within a tiny visible circle of light, trying to find the correct path. During this process, every few steps would trigger wild Pokémon encounters Zubat, or perhaps Sandshrew and Geodude. Based on her years of field mission experience, these were indeed common Pokémon that would appear in cave environments. This detail further convinced Cynthia that the game's creator must be someone with a deep understanding of all Pokémon habits. While thinking this over, after wandering the second floor for a while, she suddenly encountered someone in a red uniform. The moment she saw that person clearly, Cynthia frowned. That distinctive red R symbol, she'd recognize it even if it were burned to ash. This was Team Rocket's logo. This game's creator actually dared to make Team Rocket into NPCs. Wasn't he afraid that the real Team Rocket would come looking for trouble? But then she reconsidered. Right, even she couldn't trace this game creator's identity. Team Rocket probably couldn't do anything about him either. But regardless, this behavior proved that this game's creator had serious confidence. Otherwise, how would he dare use the world's largest criminal organization's image in his own game? As Cynthia pondered this, the Team Rocket member before her had already initiated a challenge. Where'd this kid come from? This isn't a place for you. A Pokeball's light flashed, and a Zubat appeared before Cynthia's eyes. A lightning bolt icon swept across the screen, and battle erupted instantly. Chapter 28, Cave Exploration and the Mysterious Stone? What happened next was truly beyond Cynthia's expectations. This Team Rocket member wasn't weak at all, much stronger than the two Team Aqua grunts she'd encountered before. Especially that Zubat he led with, which knew the flying-type move Wing Attack, capable of dealing super effective damage to all the Pokémon on Cynthia's team. Thankfully, Zubat didn't have the insane physical attack power of Archon, or Cynthia might have actually been taken down by this Team Rocket grunt. After winning the difficult battle, all the Pokémon on Cynthia's team had taken damage. Stufful was hit the worst as her main fighter, he'd lost over half his HP. Keep in mind, this was in a wild cave where Pokémon couldn't immediately recover at a Pokémon Center like they could in cities after battles. This was when items showed their importance. Cynthia opened her bag, pulled out the healing items she'd bought from the shop earlier, and quickly restored all her Pokémon to full health. At the same time, she realized something. For her current team, flying types were an extremely glaring weakness. Whether it was fighting type Stufful, grass type Lombra, or Trico, they all feared flying type attacks. Her team currently had no moves that could counter flying type Pokémon. And coincidentally, this cave was crawling with rock-type Pokémon, perfect counters to flying types. Should she catch a rock-type Pokémon here to round out her team and cover this weakness? As she pondered this, something else came to mind. That's right, rock-type. If she remembered correctly, after defeating Roxanne in the gym battle, she'd received a Rock Tomb trademark as a reward. That was a rock-type move. Plus, it could restrict opponents' movement and lower their speed. Against flying-type Pokémon, it was undoubtedly a solid counter. She tried opening her bag and clicking the Rock Tomb trademark, discovering that both Trico and Stufful could learn this move. After brief consideration, she positioned the cursor over Stufful. Stufful specialized in physical attack, while Trico was stronger with special attack. For learning a physical move like Rock Tomb, the former was definitely more suitable. But, how exactly did you use this trademark? As Cynthia wondered about this, she pressed the confirm button, only to see a prompt pop up. Ding! Your Pokémon Stufful already knows 4 moves. Should he forget one move to replace it with Rock Tomb? That convenient? Cynthia couldn't help but pause. The stream chat also erupted in commotion. Holy crap, he just learns it instantly. That's like direct knowledge transfer. Man, if we had machines like this in real life, how awesome would that be? Yeah, right, this is a game. How could something like that exist in reality? Everyone's strong reaction was natural. In reality, if Pokémon wanted to learn new moves beyond leveling up and naturally learning them, the other method was through move manuals. These manuals, whether paper or digital, were written by advanced trainers, containing detailed records of learning and usage insights for specific moves. Other trainers could buy these manuals to train their Pokémon. Whether they could actually learn the moves was another matter entirely. After all, this form of teaching had major limitations. Every Pokémon's situation was different, so actual learning would naturally differ from what was written in the manuals. But if there were discs like in the game that you could just place over a Pokémon's head for them to instantly learn new moves, plenty of people would be laughing in their dreams. Meanwhile, after brief consideration, Cynthia replaced Stufful's Brutal Swing. While Brutal Swing was only a 60 power dark-type move that wasn't very strong and wasn't stab, it could still help Stufful cover certain matchups. But among the moves Stufful already knew, there was another dark-type move called Payback. Although its base power of 50 didn't look high either, this move had an additional effect if used after the opponent, its power doubled to 100. Stufful's speed wasn't particularly high, meaning in actual battle, he'd often end up moving second. In those situations, Payback's effect would naturally trigger more easily, making it clearly superior to Brutal Swing. With Cynthia's choice, Brutal Swing in Stufful's move list was successfully replaced with Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, Physical/Rock. Power, 60. Description, controls numerous rocks to fall from above for attack. Has a 100% chance to lower the target Pokémon's speed by 1 stage when it hits. With this move, Flying-type Pokémon naturally weren't as threatening anymore. But Cynthia knew this was just a small measure to alleviate the problem. Catching a Pokémon that could counter flying types to fill her team's blind spot was still something she needed to do later. After learning the move, Cynthia continued advancing deeper into the cave. Along the way, she encountered several more Team Rocket members blocking her path. For some reason, every single Team Rocket member seemed to have a Zubat as standard equipment. Fortunately, Stufful's Rock Tomb could easily one-shot these Zubat with double super effective damage. And so, without consuming many supply items, Cynthia successfully reached the cave's 3rd floor. The chat began discussing things. This new move is pretty useful, isn't it? Definitely, not so afraid of flying types now. Isn't anyone curious why there are so many Team Rocket people in this cave? What are they doing here? Could this be their hideout? Doesn't feel like it, they're probably doing something bad in the cave. Stealing minerals? Catching rare Pokémon? Secret research? Damn, all of those seem possible. Ugh, those evil Team Rocket jerks. What the chat didn't know was that Cynthia was thinking the same thing. She just didn't know what Team Rocket's scheme was in coming to a cave like this. Definitely nothing good. As she pondered this, something appearing on screen suddenly grabbed her attention. Wait, what was? Before her eyes, on top of a rocky platform, sat a golden boulder. Light filtering through cracks in the cave illuminated the stone, reflecting its ancient, weathered appearance. And on the stone's surface were extremely strange patterns and shapes. It looked like a massive jaw. Chapter 29, Brawly appears. Call of the Ancient. After a brief moment of stunned silence, Cynthia suddenly snapped to attention. She controlled her character to quickly approach the stone. Golden text began appearing on the screen. Special item, Pokémon Fossil. Description, a fossil of some unknown ancient Pokémon. It seems to still contain the breath of life within. Just as she'd suspected, this really was a fossil of an ancient Pokémon. And not only that, judging by the fossil's appearance, it was a completely new species she had never seen before. Cynthia couldn't help but feel amazed again. From the earlier Lillipup to that Archon that seemed to be an ancient fossil Pokémon. Why was this game creator so knowledgeable about ancient fossil Pokémon? He'd even deliberately placed a fossil here for players to find, combined with the system prompt that had just appeared. Could there be some method in the game to revive these fossils? Thinking about this, Cynthia felt a bit regretful. When she'd finished battling Roxanne earlier, she hadn't asked where her ancient Pokémon had come from. The battle had been so intense, and when she finally won, even someone as experienced as her had been swept up in the joy, completely forgetting she could have normal conversations with NPCs. She shook her head slightly and clicked to put the fossil in her bag. The chat began updating. What ancient Pokémon fossil is this? Look at that huge mouth. Don't know, but my gut tells me with a mouth that big, it must love to eat. Big eater means strong, right? Snorlax eats a lot, Tyranitar eats a lot. Which one's weak? So what? A fossil's just a fossil. It's not like it can come back to life, right? True, but selling it should still make decent money, right? The chat didn't know that revived ancient fossil Pokémon had already appeared in the previous gym battle. So they didn't think this fossil could be revived. At most, it had some collector's value. But Cynthia thought differently. Her instincts told her that maybe later, there really would be a chance to revive this fossil. While the possibility was slim in reality, this was a game after all. What couldn't be done? Speaking of which, she wondered how Professor Oak was doing now. During her brief breaks from gaming, she had already sent him information about Loaded's and Stufful's abilities. As she pondered this, a figure quickly emerged from the darkness nearby. Young person, what are you doing in a place like this? The speaker was a man with blue hair, orange goggles, and a black tracksuit. His voice was rough but cheerful, radiating an upbeat, sunny disposition. This was Brawly, the gym leader of Duford Town in the Hone region, the target character Cynthia had entered the cave to find. Although Cynthia had never dealt with Hone gym leaders, she had heard of Brawly. Bruno, the fighting-type Elite Four member from Kanto, had once mentioned Brawly to her, saying he was naturally gifted in the fighting arts and might one day become a fighting-type Elite Four member himself. I came to challenge the gym, and I heard you were training in the cave, so I came here. Cynthia pressed the interaction key and responded politely. Ahaha, I see. Sorry about that, today just happens to be my training time. Brawly seemed a bit embarrassed, scratching the back of his head with a laugh. In that case, I'll head back to the gym to prepare. Oh, by the way, I thought I heard some battle sounds from the upper level. Were you fighting wild Pokémon? No, Team Rocket members. Cynthia had her character explain what had just happened. Brawly was immediately stunned. Team Rocket? Strange, what are they doing in Granite Cave? He stroked his chin thoughtfully for a moment, then turned to look at Cynthia. I didn't see any Team Rocket people come to this level. Looks like they're operating on the second floor, maybe they're after some minerals in the cave. In that case, I'll go up and deal with them. With that, Brawly turned and headed toward the second level. Cynthia stood there thinking, originally wanting to follow and see what was happening. But she suddenly noticed that not far behind her, there seemed to be a path leading to the next level down. And somehow, something seemed to be calling her in that direction. After a brief hesitation, she decided to trust her instincts and entered the next level through the passage. After a long downward climb, she finally reached the fourth floor. This time, the surroundings weren't dark but brilliantly bright. Cynthia could clearly see the scenery around her. This fourth level had an enormous space, with darkness stretching over 10 meters high above, and below was a vast, completely flat open area. In the center of that open space stood a stone monument. The monument continuously emanated brown light, illuminating the entire space. Besides that, there was nothing else here. Cynthia's gaze and attention naturally fell on the stone monument. Just that single glance made it impossible for her to look away. The monument was densely covered with some kind of symbols, like stars arranged across the universe, mysterious and profound. Looking closely, she could see that all the monument's lights actually came from these symbols. The radiance rose and fell as if the mysterious symbols were breathing. Meanwhile, the stream viewers began commenting. What is this thing? It looks so impressive. Don't know, can't understand it, but it feels like some kind of writing. Isn't Cynthia an archaeology expert? She should recognize it. As they say, lay people watch for excitement, experts watch for technique. As Sinnoh's top ancient mythology scholar, Cynthia recognized this as a special script from an ancient civilization. This civilization had vanished in the river of time, leaving only broken fragments. Even she only had a superficial understanding of this ancient script, most of it was completely incomprehensible to her. Ordinary archaeologists wouldn't even know this script existed. But why were these characters now appearing in a game, on the monument before her eyes? As Cynthia felt amazed, she unconsciously controlled her character to approach the monument. But the next moment... Ho-hum! The symbols on the monument transformed into streams of light, suddenly shooting skyward. Push the story forward with your power stones. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 30, The Temple and Regirock. As the symbols transformed into beams of light shooting skyward, the screen before Cynthia plunged into darkness. The next moment, a brand new CG sequence appeared. In the dark cavern, a beam of light shone down from a crack in the ceiling above. Within that radiance, the flickering brown symbols seemed to come alive, swirling through the air and dancing gracefully. Soon, they arranged themselves into 2 rows, revealing several empty spaces. A few other symbols floated separately to the side, like satellites knocked out of orbit. These had no luminous glow, appearing instead as dull gray. At that moment, the CG sequence ended, and the game interface changed. It now resembled a word puzzle board, clearly displaying the 2 rows of symbols, with several gray symbols floating and spinning below, waiting for the player's selection. Seeing this, Cynthia suddenly understood. So, the player was meant to fill in the correct positions with these characters? In a sense, it was like a decryption challenge. If the creator could design such a puzzle, did that mean he actually understood the meaning of these ancient characters? At the thought, Cynthia's heart raced. She had already found it impressive that this person knew so much about ancient Pokémon and even understood legendary dragons like Rayquaza. But she had never imagined the game's creator would also know ancient scripts, possibly to an extent that far surpassed her own. After a brief silence, Cynthia shook her head. No, that couldn't be right. The civilization that had used these characters had been extinct for ages, leaving behind only a handful of damaged texts with blurred, indecipherable content treasured and stored in the League's classified museums. Countless experts had tried to decode them, but progress was painfully slow. Despite years of effort, only a small portion of the symbols had been understood. Cynthia had once been part of that work. So she suspected the game creator had simply stumbled upon knowledge of this script through some obscure channel and included it for show. And this word-filling puzzle? The content was probably wrong, and the symbols were scrambled. With enough guesses, anyone could pass. That had to be it, right? Right? Yet, given the game's track record, Cynthia found herself uncertain. Her gaze fell on the 2 rows of ancient text. The brown-yellow symbols glowed faintly, swaying as if urging her forward. From her translation experience, she noted some symbols she had never seen before, some she vaguely remembered but had never translated, and a few she actually recognized. For example, in the second row, just before the third blank space, one symbol resembled mountains with 3 peaks, and the next was a triangle. Together, they meant of the earth. Looking at the floating symbols below, she suddenly froze. Wait! Among them were 2 connected shapes resembling a butterfly, meaning blessing. The meaning fits perfectly in that blank space. Could it be? She held her breath and first tried placing 2 unfamiliar symbols into the blank. A sharp screech rang out, the symbols were ejected, and one of the 3 golden lights at the top of the interface went out. Viewers in the live stream reacted instantly. So this is a puzzle challenge? You have to put the right symbols in the blanks, and you only get 3 chances. Too bad, looks like the first guess was wrong. Isn't Cynthia an expert in ancient writing? How could she get it wrong? Are these symbols made up by the creator? What happens if you use all 3 chances? I've got a bad feeling. Cynthia ignored the chat. Taking a deep breath, she dragged the butterfly-shaped symbols into the blank space. Brown light swirled as a clear chime rang out, and energy rippled through the space. The symbols settled into place, glowing as if they had come to life. It was a perfect fit. This proved one thing. The creator truly understood the meaning of these ancient characters. But how could that be? These came from a lost civilization. In her shock, Cynthia realized something. If that was the case, she could use this puzzle to help decipher the other symbols. Her eyes lit up as she studied them carefully. As a mythological archaeologist, she knew that decoding ancient scripts was hardest at the beginning, when almost nothing was understood. Normally, scholars could only make slow progress through repeated guesses. But here, she could get instant, accurate feedback. After a minute of thinking, she placed 2 more symbols into a blank. A chime rang out. Correct again. Her pace quickened. Star. Moon. Darkness. Rock. Blank after blank lit up, sending the live stream into a frenzy. As expected of a mythologist truly professional. No idea how she's doing this. Anyone care to explain? Time passed. Sweat beaded on Cynthia's forehead. When the last blank was filled, all the characters froze. Rumble. The cavern shook violently. A massive shadow burst from the ground. The screen went black, another CG sequence. Urgent drumbeats pounded. The cavern shook, rocks and dust raining down. A colossal, temple-like structure rose from the earth, covered in glowing brown symbols. Sacred orchestral music swelled. Inside the temple was an enormous Pokémon, over 10 meters tall, its body made of perfectly fitted brown and grey rocks. 7 faint grey lights, arranged like an H, marked its head. The sight left viewers speechless. The temple fully emerged, its pillars covered in flickering ancient characters. The massive Pokémon leaned motionless against it, radiating a raw, primitive power. The camera panned upward, revealing its full scale before fading to black. When the interface returned, Cynthia's tiny character stood before the temple, barely reaching the Pokémon's legs. The chat exploded. Holy crap! What is that? Is that still a Pokémon? It's gotta be a legendary. This is insane. The quality's amazing even with live stream compression. Most viewers had never encountered such beings. Even professional trainers rarely saw them. But all had the same thought. Legendary giant. Cynthia sat frozen. She recognized it instantly. Regirock is one of the legendary titans of the Hone region. She had studied them extensively, though they hadn't been seen in 1,000 years. Once, she had joined an expedition to a ruin near Petalburg Woods, where they had found murals of Regirock and Regis, though Registeel's mural had been destroyed. Now, seeing Regirock in such vivid detail sent a thrill through her. It matched the ancient murals exactly but far more lifelike. That meant one thing. The creator's knowledge of Regirock far exceeded that of ordinary people. He might have even seen it in person. And if he knew this much about Regirock, did he also know about Rayquaza and other legendary giants? Just who was he? Cynthia's eyes hardened. She had to complete this run and contact the creator. Chapter 31, The Awakening Ritual, Legendary Pokémon. As Cynthia pondered, new developments appeared before her eyes. Within that temple, a 5-pointed star magic circle suddenly materialized, and those ancient text symbols she'd just pieced together emerged from this circle, floating in the air and arranging themselves neatly into 2 rows. What followed was an ancient, weathered voice, as if crossing thousands of years of time, transmitted from the distant past. Legend speaks of a bountiful land, guarded by the rock giant. Its body indestructible, its power infinite and vast. It bestows the earth's blessing upon all living beings. As the ancient voice recited, Cynthia realized this was exactly the ancient text she'd just completed. She immediately pressed the screenshot button and started her computer's recording function at maximum speed. The reason was simple: this audio, combined with these ancient text symbols, would become the most valuable research material. With this video, archaeological research on this ancient script could make a breakthrough. As Cynthia recorded, that voice continued its recitation. The content roughly described the rock giant's power and the help and protection it brought to surrounding humans. But as the ancient voice continued, it suddenly began to become unclear. It seemed like a section of content was being skipped. The symbols floating in the air also suddenly began trembling, tottering, and finally scattered to the ground before disappearing. Only a voice filled with unwillingness faintly came from the distant void. Offer, sacrifices. Giant awakens. The voice cut off abruptly there, completely severed. Above the sanctuary, that 5-pointed star circle suddenly blazed brightly, with circles of light appearing at each corner position. Seeing this, Cynthia immediately understood. So, the current situation was: she needed to place sacrifices in these circles to awaken the rock giant. Meanwhile, in the stream chat, comments flowed like a tide. Everyone had just been shocked by Regirock's performance in the CG, and many were finally snapping back to reality. Streamer, what Pokemon is this? So huge, isn't that too exaggerated? It's not really a legendary Pokemon, is it? So what that voice said means this Pokemon was really powerful in ancient times and helped humans. What do you put in now to wake it up? Seeing the string of questions, Cynthia glanced at the chat and thought briefly. The leak actually didn't deliberately control information about these legendary Pokemon, it was simply because their traces were too mysterious, and many hadn't appeared in the past 1,000 years. For most legendary Pokemon, even the leak didn't have much detailed information about them. So naturally, ordinary people and trainers among the public didn't know about legendary beasts either. But now this game seemed to offer ordinary people a chance, an opportunity to learn about legendary Pokemon. No. Not just simple understanding. Cynthia looked at the massive form of the rock giant on screen. This game gave everyone the possibility of encountering legendary Pokemon. This game's popularity was inevitable. So sooner or later, everyone would learn about various legendary Pokemon and their charm. For a mythologist like her, this was exactly what she hoped to see. With that thought, Cynthia's eyes sparkled as she spoke softly. Yes, what you're all seeing now is Regirock, the rock giant, one of the 3 giants legendary Pokemon from the Hone region. It's said this Pokemon's entire body is composed of special minerals, making it incredibly hard. Unfortunately, I don't know much more information, since I've never seen it with my own eyes either. At this moment, with Cynthia's confirmation and explanation, the chat exploded again. Holy crap! It really is a legendary Pokemon. GG, this creator really dares to add anything. Why wouldn't he dare? Did you see that CG quality? Making a legendary beast, what's hard about that for him? True that. As the chat went wild, Cynthia spoke again. It looks like we need to place certain precious items in this magic circle to awaken it. I'm guessing, perhaps valuable, rare minerals. Actually, at this moment, looking at the slumbering rock giant before her, her heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. Being able to get so close to these legendary Pokémon, even potentially communicate with them. For her, even just doing this in a game would bring immense satisfaction and excitement. After all, there was no such opportunity in reality. Just as Cynthia finished speaking, the entire cave began rumbling and shaking violently again. That temple, along with Regirock's massive form, began sinking back into the ground, completely disappearing within seconds as if none of it had ever happened. However, the flickering five-pointed star circle remaining in place proved it hadn't been an illusion. Looking at the scene before her, Cynthia stepped forward and selected a leaf stone from her bag. She'd accidentally found this in a pokeball while picking through roadside grass when leaving Rustboro City and returning from Petalburg Woods to Old Man Hatchie's house. Since they were awakening the rock giant, a Pokémon whose entire body was made of minerals, perhaps this would be a suitable sacrifice? With Cynthia's choice, the leaf stone landed on one corner of the altar, instantly transforming into green light and disappearing. The entire altar trembled slightly, and a blank circle appeared in the very center. A stream of brownish light flowed into the circle, filling less than 1/20th of the space. The light circle swayed, seemingly urging Cynthia forward, wanting more energy. Seeing this, Cynthia couldn't help but sigh softly. Although progress had increased slightly, compared to the magic circle's overall size, it was practically negligible. Obviously, having just started the game, she had no way to gather enough sacrifices to awaken the rock giant. But at least the circle's reaction confirmed that what was needed to awaken Regirock was various precious minerals. I'll probably have to come back later. She silently memorized this magic circle's location and turned to leave the 4th floor through a side passage. However, she'd barely emerged from the passage and returned to the 3rd floor when she froze again. Because a familiar figure had already appeared before her. Chapter 32, Champion Encounter. It was a tall man with short blue hair, wearing a suit, looking around the cave walls left and right, seemingly searching for something earnestly and carefully. Cynthia wasn't entirely certain when she first saw him, but the moment she watched him excitedly pick up a round black stone from the wall, she immediately confirmed his identity. This was none other than the son of the famous Devon Corporation president, Mr. Stone, and also the champion trainer of the Hone region, Stephen Stone. As fellow champions, she naturally had quite a few interactions with him and clearly knew what his greatest hobby was. Minerals. He often ran off to strange places like this to collect rare minerals. Stephen's champion title at the league was almost like an honorary position because of his obsession with stones. Unless there was truly a mission requiring a top-tier trainer, he would step up. The rest of the time, you basically couldn't find Stephen anywhere in the league. Meanwhile, he might be thousands of kilometers away in some hidden underground cave, looking around left and right just like now. As Stephen continued approaching, quite a few people in the stream chat recognized him. Holy crap, isn't that blue-haired guy Stephen? Looks like it really is. This game even put champions like him in it. Makes sense, right? He dared to put Team Rocket in, so what's a champion? Will Cynthia have a chance to see herself? Hard to say, this is the Hone region after all. As the chat expressed surprise, Stephen had already reached Cynthia, with an exclamation mark appearing above his head. Oh, there's actually someone else here. Hello there, young lady. Are you also here looking for minerals? That incredibly familiar tone and voice rang in Cynthia's ears, and she couldn't help feeling slightly surprised. Whether it was Professor Birch she'd encountered before, gym leader Roxanne, or even the protagonist's father, Norman, they were all people she'd only heard of but never met in the real world. In other words, she had no idea what these people would actually be like in reality. But Stephen was completely different. As fellow champions, their connection was naturally close. Moreover, Stephen's hobby was somewhat similar to Cynthia's in a way. Stephen also liked exploring various ancient ruins, but Cynthia did it to collect information on ancient myths, while Stephen did it to search for various ancient minerals. Through such frequent interactions, Cynthia had developed a good understanding of Stephen as a person. As Cynthia felt surprised, Stephen, before her, spoke again. Oh, by the way. I thought I heard some loud sounds coming from the cave below. Do you know what happened? Cynthia thought for a moment, pressed the interaction key, and roughly told Stephen what had just happened below. After hearing this, he immediately looked surprised. Really? You encountered a legendary Pokémon? This is no small matter. I need to go back and report to the league. He looked at Cynthia. Of course, don't worry. Since you discovered it, you're qualified to participate in whatever happens next provided you become stronger. You know, legendary Pokémon, they're all powerful and dangerous, aren't they? Listening to these words, Cynthia's expression was somewhat complex. The person before her was almost identical to the real Steven, polite, confident, and with a crazy love for minerals. Moreover, whether it was his voice, tone, speech content, or even that pixel character's hair-touching gesture, everything was exactly the same as Steven's. As Cynthia pondered, Steven's voice rang out again. So, could you tell me in detail what that legendary Pokémon looked like? Cynthia paused. Well, about several dozen meters tall, and its entire body was made of minerals. As soon as she finished speaking, Steven's stone froze, and his eyes suddenly burst with a terrifying light. That young lady, I need to hurry and see what's happening below. This thing is for you. I hope you get stronger quickly so we might meet again later. I'm going now. He threw something at Cynthia, turned around, and ran off without a trace. That sprint was faster than a train. Obviously, he seemed very anxious. But Cynthia completely understood why Steven was so excited that he'd practically swallowed punctuation marks in his speech, speaking without any pauses. Because few people knew that rare and exotic minerals actually only ranked second in Steven's preferences. What ranked first were Pokémon whose bodies were made of stone. For Steven, a legendary Pokémon like Regirock entirely made of rock and dozens of meters tall was like flower nectar on Bulbasaur's back to a Heracross, possessing an absolutely fatal attraction. Speaking of which, with all these details about Steven so perfectly recreated, this game's creator probably understood Steven quite deeply. So might there be some connection between him and the real Steven? As she pondered, a notification suddenly popped up before Cynthia. Item, Water Stone has been placed in your bag. Cynthia immediately froze upon seeing this. Water Stone. Wasn't this exactly the item needed for Lombra to evolve into Ludicolo? Seeing this, the stream viewers were also amazed. Holy crap, giving exactly what you need? Steven's such a good guy. Meeting face to face and directly giving an evolution stone? Geez, poverty really does limit my imagination. Of course, Steven's famously on the wealth rankings. Did you think the title Young Master Stone was a joke? I'm dying. The moment he heard about Regirock below, he ran faster than a ghost. He really does love rocks. Evolve quickly, evolve quickly. I can't wait to see the pineapple kappa. Cynthia thought it over and decided to leave the cave before letting Lombra evolve. After all, this wasn't a suitable place for evolution. With that thought, she took out the item escape rope and chose to use it. The next moment, after some dizzying spinning, Cynthia reappeared at the entrance to Granite Cave. She released Lombra from its pokeball and took out the water stone with a slight smile. Are you ready, Lombra? You can evolve now. Lom. Upon hearing this, Lombra eagerly leaped up, actively approaching the water stone. The next moment, brilliant evolutionary light suddenly burst forth across the clearing. Chapter 33, Ludicolo. Hey there, want to fish? Amidst the rainbow-colored evolutionary glow, Lombra's silhouette shifted and changed rapidly, expanding in size before their very eyes. When the brilliant light finally faded, his appearance had been completely transformed. A round, plump body topped with a sombrero-like hat featuring jagged edges, covered head to toe in yellow and green wave-like stripes, looking just like a Hawaiian hula dancer. This was Lombra's final evolution after using the water stone Ludicolo. Looking at the newly evolved Ludicolo before her, Cynthia pressed the interaction button and spoke. Congratulations on evolving, Ludicolo. How do you feel? On screen, the Ludicolo beside her looked itself over from left to right, then broke into an excited grin, giving Cynthia an enthusiastic response. Ludi. Clearly, he was thrilled with his new body and the power suddenly surging through him. He even did a little jog around Cynthia, swinging his arms and breaking into a dance. Though his chubby body swaying around looked a bit goofy, there was definitely some real rhythm to his moves. It was actually pretty unique. This scene had the live stream chat cracking up. Who was it that said dancing pineapple earlier? I'm dying. He really does look like one, lol. I got stronger, but I also got goofier, ha ha ha. Already evolved to final form this early? Interesting. Think she'll win the gym battle? Meanwhile, watching Ludicolo beside her, Cynthia couldn't help but smile slightly. With Lombra's evolution into Ludicolo, there was no doubt his battle capabilities had improved across the board. Moreover, at this early stage of the game when most Pokémon could only reach their second evolutionary form, having Ludicolo as a fully evolved third-stage Pokémon made him a powerful asset to the team. In fact, he might just be the strongest member of her current roster. With this development, she felt much more confident about challenging the next gym. Not only that, but a series of notifications had just popped up on Cynthia's screen. Congratulations! Lombra has successfully evolved into Ludicolo. Ludicolo wants to learn the following new moves: Bubble Beam, Mist, Zen Headbutt, Giga Drain, and Teeter Dance, but his move slots are full. Would you like to forget some moves to replace them with these new ones? This Waterstone evolution had taught Ludicolo a whopping 5 new moves. Among these 5, 3 were offensive techniques with solid power for their respective types. As for the other 2, while Mist and Teeter Dance weren't damage-dealing moves, the former could prevent ally Pokémon's stats from being lowered, and the latter could inflict confusion on opponents. Both were solid utility moves. After brief consideration, Cynthia settled on 4 moves for Ludicolo's final moveset: Giga Drain, Zen Headbutt, Bubble Beam, Teeter Dance. Her reasoning was solid. Giga Drain and Bubble Beam served as stab, same type attack bonus, moves for Ludicolo's 2 types, making them excellent choices, especially with their additional effects. Giga Drain could restore HP equal to half the damage dealt, while Bubble Beam had a chance to lower the opponent's speed. Zen Headbutt, though a physical attack move and not stab, didn't seem like Ludicolo's specialty at first glance. But considering the next gym was fighting type and this psychic type move would be super effective against fighting Pokémon, Cynthia decided to keep it. Come to think of it, she recalled that Ludicolo should also be able to learn advanced moves like Hydro Pump, Nature Power, and Energy Ball. According to this game's mechanics, maybe he'd need to reach higher levels before he could naturally learn those techniques. After configuring Ludicolo's moveset, Cynthia opened the Pokémon status screen to check its ability. Some Pokémon change abilities when they reach their final evolution. Fortunately, Ludicolo hadn't. His ability was still Swift Swim. This meant Cynthia could start gradually building a rain team around Ludicolo. Having sorted out Ludicolo's status and chatted with him a bit more, Cynthia returned him to his Pokeball, planning to head to the Pokémon Center to restore her team before going to the gym for battle. However, the next moment, someone emerged from the cave behind her. Familiar blue hair and goggles, it was none other than Brawly, the Duford Gym leader. The instant he spotted Cynthia, he seemed momentarily stunned, then quickly recovered. "Oh? You used an escape rope to get out, didn't you? Smart move. Sorry to keep you waiting out here. I did find some Team Rocket members on the second floor just now. They seemed to be searching for something down there. Too bad they all ran the moment they saw me. I was hoping to teach them a proper lesson." Brawly shared what he'd encountered in the cave, scratching the back of his head. "Anyway, I'm heading back to the gym now. Looking forward to seeing your awesome performance in our upcoming battle." He grinned, turned around, and strode off toward the gym. Cynthia let out a small sigh, her thoughts racing. She'd learned that this game's core objective was to challenge 8 gyms, collect all the badges, and ultimately face the Elite Four and Champion to become the strongest Pokémon trainer. So these gyms were like checkpoints set throughout the game. The previous battle at Rustboro Gym had already proven one thing: these gym leaders were no pushovers. What kind of Pokémon would Brawly use to bring her a brand new challenge? Her heart was starting to race with anticipation. This feeling of facing a formidable opponent, this excitement that made her blood boil. It had been years since she'd felt anything like this. Lost in nostalgia and excitement, Cynthia prepared to move her character forward again. But she'd barely taken a few steps when she suddenly stopped. Because another figure had appeared before her, blocking her path. It was a short, chubby middle-aged man wearing a red baseball cap. He looked around cautiously, then sidled up to Cynthia's character and spoke. "Excuse me, beautiful lady, sorry to bother you. But, do you happen to like fishing?" Cynthia? Chapter 34, Duford Gym, Brawly's Strategy? Fortunately, after the man blocked her path with his question, nothing particularly troublesome happened. When Cynthia chose the "I like fishing" option, he excitedly handed her a fishing rod and some bait, even thoughtfully teaching her how to use it. Of course, the fishing here wasn't traditional fishing, but using special bait to catch water-type Pokémon living in the water. After getting the fishing rod, Cynthia suddenly realized something. Earlier, when she'd caught Lombra, she'd considered building a team centered around Rainy Weather based on his swift swim ability. Undoubtedly, most of that team would consist of water-type Pokémon. And fishing seemed like an efficient way to obtain them. Looking at the fishing rod in her bag, she felt tempted to try a few casts at the nearby ocean. But ultimately, Cynthia resisted the urge and put the rod away. She would go fishing after challenging the gym. After restoring her team's HP at the Pokémon Center, Cynthia entered Duford Gym and began her second gym battle. Meanwhile, in the livestream chat, discussions about Duford Gym were heating up. Already going for the second gym. That's our streamer for you. Speaking of which, this gym shouldn't be too hard, right? Fighting type Pokémon don't seem that strong. True, and now that she has Ludicolo, Cynthia's battle power is on a whole different level. Hard to say though. Think about how tough the first gym was. Logically, the second gym should only get harder, not easier. My gut tells me the streamer's about to get wrecked again, ha ha ha. Unlike Rustboro Gym, Duford Gym was pitch black inside with very low visibility. You could barely feel your way forward in the darkness. However, having just navigated Granite Cave, Cynthia quickly defeated the gym trainers and eventually reached a massive arena. On the other side, Brawly looked up. Their eyes met, and a huge exclamation point appeared over Brawly's head as his cheerful, sunny voice rang out. I didn't expect you to get here so fast. Looks like you've got some real skill. But that alone won't be enough. Let me show you the charm of fighting type Pokémon and teach you a proper lesson. Intense, uplifting music began playing, ripples swept across the screen, and the battle commenced. Brawly took the field, immediately throwing out a Pokeball. A Pokémon with an orange body, sharp eyes, and muscular arms appeared. Looking at this Pokémon, Cynthia raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. So it's him? Her opponent was Combusken, one of the Hone starter Pokémon, the evolved form of Torchic, the same Pokémon her rival had chosen. Unlike Torchic, Combusken had gained the fighting type as a secondary typing, which explained why it appeared here. According to gym battle rules, Cynthia, as the challenger, could send out her Pokémon second. Facing Combusken, she didn't hesitate to choose Ludicolo. Since fighting types don't resist each other, Stufful, as a normal type, would be at a disadvantage against Combusken. And Grovel's grass typing would be weak to Combusken's fire type. The best choice on her current team was naturally Ludicolo, with his water typing that resisted fire. With Ludicolo's entrance, the gym battle officially began. After brief consideration, Cynthia chose the move Zen Headbutt. It might seem that using the super effective stab move Bubble Beam would deal more damage to Combusken. But having learned from her previous battle with Roxanne, Cynthia understood these NPCs had extremely strong battle awareness. Seeing Ludicolo on the first turn, Brawly would likely switch to avoid Combusken's type disadvantage. In that case, Zen Headbutt, which could deal double damage to all fighting types, was undoubtedly the best choice. This was Cynthia's prediction. She didn't even realize she had unconsciously learned an important aspect of Pokémon battle strategy reading the switch. However, as Ludicolo's head glowed with pink light and psychic energy gathered, she noticed something was wrong. Despite the type disadvantage, Brawly wasn't switching. The psychic headbutt struck Combusken, dealing massive damage with the super effective hit. Combusken's HP bar plummeted, dropping to just over 1/3 yellow health. Seeing this, the livestream viewers got excited. Holy crap, that much damage! That's a fully evolved Pokémon for you. Pineapple God! Pineapple God! Pineapple God! Show some respect, he's the river god. This Brawly seems pretty dumb. Can't compare to Roxanne at all. Doesn't even know how to switch when facing a type disadvantage. What a waste of the streamer's prediction. While the chat discussed, Cynthia frowned, thinking rapidly. Given the AI intelligence level of NPCs in this game, there was no reason for Brawly not to switch. Unless he had a way to deal with Ludicolo. As a grass type, Ludicolo would be weak to flying type moves. And Combusken could potentially know flying type moves like the nearly perfect accuracy aerial ace, or the high power air slash that could cause flinching. But logically, both were advanced moves, and under this game's mechanics, a second stage Pokémon like Combusken shouldn't necessarily be able to learn them. While Cynthia pondered, Combusken, having gained the turn, began to act. Unexpectedly, instead of attacking Ludicolo, he raised both arms above his head and began spinning rapidly in place. Sharp air currents swirled around him, and a red light flashed. Combusken used Swords Dance. Combusken's attack sharply rose. Seeing this, the chat burst into laughter. Does this brawly even know how to play? Setting up boosts while facing a super effective Pokémon? Does he want to die? Exactly. What's the point of boosting? It'd be one thing if he were faster than Ludicolo, but he's slower. Next turn, Ludicolo will knock him out before he can even attack. He's basically giving away a free Pokémon. This is in the bag. In the viewer's eyes, Brawly's behavior seemed utterly incomprehensible. What was the point of such a boost? But unlike the audience, looking at Combusken's body surrounded by red light, Cynthia suddenly felt an ominous premonition. No, something was wrong. Sure enough, the next moment, a powerful air current burst from Combusken's body. Silver light enveloped him. The game notification appeared. The opponent's Combusken speed boost ability activated. Combusken's speed rose. Thanks, everyone, for the monthly tickets, reading support and recommendation tickets. Have a great weekend. Good luck to all the students taking exams. Go for it. Chapter 35, Cynthia vs. Brawly Clash of Tactics. As the air currents representing speed boost swirled around Combusken's body, the livestream chat erupted in confusion. Speed boost? What kind of ability is that? Does Combusken even have that ability? Yo dude, is your Pokémon even legal? How can it auto-boost speed like that? Holy crap, so next turn he'll outspeed Ludicolo, won't he? While the chat was in chaos, Cynthia calmly took in the scene, immediately grasping the gravity of the situation. Sure enough, gym leaders in this game would never make the basic mistake of giving away a free Pokémon. The reason Brawly dared to use Swords Dance against the type-disadvantaged Ludicolo was because he knew Combusken's speed boost would activate at the end of the turn, letting him regain priority in the next round. But, how could Combusken have the speed boost ability? Wasn't his ability supposed to be only Blaze? She had no time to dwell on it. The command timer was down to 15 seconds. For now, she had to focus on the match. The situation was clearly unfavorable. With a 2-level attack boost, Combusken's moves would effectively deal double damage. Worse, after speed boost activated, he would outspeed any Pokémon on her team, gaining even more speed with each passing turn. Her eyes narrowed as she made her decision, selecting Zen Headbutt again. It was fine. Ludicolo at full HP might withstand one hit from Combusken. Ludicolo's defense and HP stats were excellent at this stage. As long as Combusken didn't have a flying type move, it'd fall to Ludicolo's counterattack. The turn began. Fortunately, Combusken didn't use Wing Attack or Aerial Ace. Cynthia breathed a small sigh of relief. The worst-case scenario hadn't happened. But the next move shattered her expectations. Instead of attacking, Combusken's body glowed white, and a baton floated in the air as if held by invisible hands. Combusken used Baton Pass and switched out. In an instant, Combusken transformed into red light and vanished, replaced by a towering, 2-meter-tall Pokémon with a muscular frame and steel rebar strapped to its back. The opponent sent out Gyarados. Dazzling red light and powerful air currents swirled around Gyarados. Gyarados inherited Combusken's stat changes. The chat exploded. Hey? What was that move just now? Why was there a stick? Baton Pass, seems like it can transfer boosts? Wait, holy crap! Oh no! Cynthia's expression grew serious. The moment she saw the baton, she knew what had happened. Baton Pass transferred the current Pokémon stat boosts to another team member while allowing a switch during battle. In real-life battles, this move was rarely used. It required careful setup, and even champion-level Pokémon could only pass on a fraction of their boosts. But in this game, the effect was far stronger. Gyarados now had Combusken's stat boosts at full health, and his attack stat was already terrifying. In her career, she had only faced one trainer who used Gyarados' evolved form, Conkeldurr, and that battle left a lasting impression. If giving Combusken those boosts was like handing him a razor-sharp sword, then giving them to Gyarados was like loading a machine gun with explosive rounds. As she considered her next move, the situation worsened. Ludicolo's head glowed pink as he charged with psychic energy, but he missed completely. Ludicolo used Zen Headbutt, but it missed. A critical miss. The next turn began. Cynthia chose Zen Headbutt again. It was her only option. Gyarados' speed wasn't exceptional, even with a boost, so Ludicolo might still move first. Zen Headbutt also had a 20% chance to make the opponent flinch. If Ludicolo couldn't survive an attack, maybe he could still control the match. But as the turn began, a sudden change occurred. From the deep red orb on Gyarados' chest, flames burst forth, enveloping him. Gyarados' flame orb activated. Gyarados was burned. Cynthia froze. Flame orb? Burning himself? The chat was just as puzzled. Carrying an item to burn yourself? What's the point? This Gyarados might be an M, confirmed. First Swords Dance, then Baton Pass, now burning himself. Brawly's a madman. From previous matches, viewers knew that a burn status cut a Pokémon's attack in half and drained HP each turn. For a physical attacker like Gyarados, this seemed like self-sabotage. But then, Gyarados' Guts ability activated. The attack reduction from burn was nullified. His attack rose. The chat went wild. Hey! Wait, how did his attack go up instead of down? This is insane. Cynthia bit her lip. So it was Guts. In that case, Ludicolo had no chance of surviving. Her only hope was for Zen Headbutt to cause a flinch. But before Ludicolo could move, Gyarados used Mach Punch. A brown flash, and Ludicolo's HP dropped to 0. Ludicolo fainted. Without hesitation, Cynthia closed the game and restarted. With 2 attack boosts, Gyarados could one-shot Stufful and Grovel as well, and Mach Punch had priority. There was no point continuing. The chat was still reeling. Brawly bro, no, Lord Brawly. I kneel before you. He looks sunny and cheerful, but he's terrifying in battle. Gyarados just punched Ludicolo's hat clean off. Cynthia, explain how he got so strong. I'm lost. After a moment, Cynthia spoke. Brawly's tactics were brilliant. Combusken could use Speed Boost and Swords Dance to pass stat boosts to Gyarados on turn 2. If I'm correct, Combusken held a Focus Sash. Even if hit by a super effective move, he could survive with 1 HP, complete his boost pass, and retreat. Gyarados, after inheriting 2 attack boosts, became even deadlier with Guts, which boosts attack under a status condition while ignoring Burn's penalty. Combine that with Mach Punch's priority, and he can sweep the late game. She paused, her gaze thoughtful. The scientific community believed Gyarados' abilities were sheer force or guts, but she had never seen anyone actively exploit guts this way. It was clever and exactly the kind of resourceful play every trainer should strive for. Rather than just a strong team, this showed the game's creator had a master-level understanding of Pokémon battles. But Cynthia's eyes now shone with determination. The harder the fight, the more seriously she would take it. She restarted the game, entered Duford Gym, and stood before Brawly once more. This time, she had a plan. Instead of challenging immediately, she opened Ludicolo's move configuration menu. In this game, Pokémon could carry only 4 moves in battle. Learning a new move required replacing an existing one, but any previously learned move could be re-equipped at any time. She scanned the list, stopping at one move in particular. Her eyes lit up. Perfect, this is it. This battle is just getting started. She smiled, speaking softly. 10 seconds later, the match began, Ludicolo and Combusken taking the stage once again. The chat buzzed. Combusken lead again? He's going for the same strategy. Yeah, it's unbeatable. Focus Sash guarantees the pass. Only chance is Zen Headbutt flinch, but it's risky. But this time, Ludicolo didn't use Zen Headbutt or Bubble Beam. Instead, a palm of dark energy formed and struck Combusken. Ludicolo used Fake Out. The move dealt only minor damage, but that wasn't the point. Combusken flinched. Fake Out could only be used on the first turn after a Pokémon entered battle, but it had high priority and guaranteed flinch. Cynthia smiled. Focus Sash only triggers at full HP. Even a small chip of damage rendered it useless. Just like now. Ludicolo, use Bubble Beam. Ludi. Bubbles surged from Ludicolo's mouth, rushing straight toward Combusken. Chapter 36, Cute and Cuddly? One Punch KO. Even though Combusken had boosted his speed once in the previous turn, now surpassing Ludicolo and gaining the right to move first, the last battle had clearly proven one thing: he wasn't equipped with flying-type moves to counter Ludicolo. Cynthia guessed that, besides Baton Pass and Swords Dance, his remaining 2 moves likely corresponded to his types Fighting and Fire. At this moment, Combusken, who had already lost some HP to Fake Out, faced the incoming wave of bubbles and transformed into red light, retreating directly into his Pokeball. Clearly, Brawly had determined that if Combusken stayed on the field, he would be one-shot by Ludicolo. So he chose to switch without hesitation. The familiar figure that appeared was none other than the same Gurdurr from before. He took Combusken's place, and the dense bubble beam struck his massive body. Without a type advantage, it didn't deal particularly impressive damage, only about 1/3 of his HP. A new turn began, and facing Gurdurr, Cynthia fell into thought. In the last battle, she had figured out part of Gurdurr's setup. With the Guts ability combined with Flame Orb, Gurdurr's attack stat would receive a massive boost. However, without the Swords Dance boost from Combusken's Baton Pass, his Mach Punch shouldn't be able to defeat Ludicolo directly. The best approach now would be to use Zen Headbutt immediately. Still, she felt uncertain. As Cynthia entered her command, the turn began. Ludicolo's head glowed with pink psychic energy as he charged toward Gurdurr. It's super effective. Gurdurr's HP bar plummeted rapidly, dropping to less than 1/5 and flashing red. But Cynthia's expression darkened. She hadn't KO'd him. Since Gurdurr didn't use Mach Punch for priority, he must have chosen a different attack this turn. Given the game's nature, could the opponent have given him Facade, a move that deals double damage under status conditions? Or perhaps another move designed to counter Ludicolo? Either way, Ludicolo couldn't tank it. But just then, a pink light flashed across Gurdurr's robust body. Gurdurr wanted to use Facade, but flinched. Lady Luck was on Cynthia's side. Zen Headbutt's secondary flinch effect had interrupted Gurdurr's Facade. Faced with such a golden opportunity, Cynthia didn't hesitate to choose Zen Headbutt again. The pink light flashed, and Gurdurr's HP bar emptied completely. This meant that, besides Combusken, Brawly had only his last Pokémon remaining. At this point, the livestream viewers should have been cheering. Cynthia had defeated 2 of Brawly's Pokémon without Ludicolo taking any damage. Under normal circumstances, this would be the time to pop the champagne. However, the chat had a different tone. Everything looks smooth, but I feel a chill down my spine somehow. Yeah, streamer, you need to be careful. Speed Boost Baton Pass Combusken, Guts Self-Harm Gurdurr, hard to imagine what the last Pokémon will be. Clearly, the previous gym battle NPC's performances had made viewers wary. If it ended this easily, they'd actually find it suspicious. As 2 Pokémon fell, Brawly sent out his final one. It was a yellow-bodied Pokémon wearing boxing gloves, Makahita. The viewers instantly relaxed. Makahita was still a first-stage evolution. Even with tricks or tactics, compared to second-stage evolutions like Combusken and Gurdurr, the raw power gap was enormous. As the chat scrolled, Cynthia, after a brief hesitation, had Ludicolo use Zen Headbutt. Against a fighting type, it was definitely the right call. Ludicolo's head glowed with pink light as he charged. With super effective damage, it should have brought Makahita to critical HP or even KO'd him outright. But Ludicolo's attack missed. 95% accuracy sometimes caused moments of pure frustration. The chat, however, didn't seem concerned. As everyone knows, moves only have 2 accuracy rates, 100% and 0%. It's fine, missed is missed. The margin for error is huge this time. Right, it's just a Makahita. Even if he boosts, he can't break through the streamer's team. The little guy is pretty cute. Did he get lost? At that moment, Makahita's fists erupted with deep blue light. He charged straight at Ludicolo, landing a chilling punch. Makahita used Focus Punch. Makahita's choice band boosted the power of physical moves. Critical hit. In an instant, Ludicolo's HP bar emptied completely. The chat froze, then exploded. S4 answer 0, hey? Where did my big Ludicolo go? Lucy Morningstar, what the hell? Why this time too? Ghetto was right, alright, looks like Brawly wasn't holding back. After the choice band, Makahita one-shot Ludicolo, Grovel and Stufful took turns wearing him down. Eventually, Grovel landed the final blow with just a sliver of health left. But the nearly full health Combusken was clearly too much for Grovel to handle. Cynthia's second challenge ended in failure. Armed with this experience, she started her third gym battle immediately. After several attempts, she finally executed a perfect fight. Ludicolo took down Gurdurr without taking damage, and at the crucial moment, she switched to Grovel to block Makahita's attack, preserving Ludicolo's condition. As Combusken fell under Bubble Beam's assault, Cynthia finally cleared the second gym. In front of the computer, Cynthia listened to the cheerful victory music, a different kind of brilliance flickering in her dark eyes. She leaned back, took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and smiled faintly. That sense of satisfaction after an intense battle really was quite nostalgic. Chapter 37, Time to Sleep Indeed. At this moment, Cynthia couldn't help but feel somewhat emotional. For a brief instant just now, she had even forgotten that this was just a game. Meanwhile, the livestream chat was heatedly discussing this Duford Gym battle. You have to understand, when challenging the first gym against Roxanne, Cynthia had tried over and over again countless times before finally succeeding. But this time at Duford Gym, she cleared it in just a few attempts. So quite a few people felt it was a bit too easy this time. Is it just me, or did Duford Gym feel way easier than Roxanne's, even though it had its own challenges? I also think this gym battle's difficulty was a bit low. Low my ass. Think carefully without Ludicolo, how would you even fight this? This comment made everyone in the livestream suddenly realize the truth. That's actually right. Under normal circumstances, Cynthia's team should consist of Pokémon like Stufful and Grovel that hadn't evolved to their final forms yet. At such power levels, you can imagine just how difficult it would be to handle that speed boost Baton Pass Combusken, or the Guts ability self-harming Gurdurr. Even that seemingly cute and cuddly final Makahita could one-punch KO Ludicolo. Not to mention that even with Ludicolo, Cynthia's victory this time involved some luck. If Zen Headbutt hadn't triggered the flinch effect in the third turn, the one left standing might not have been Ludicolo, but a Guts Makahita with some health remaining and Mach Punch. So this time it wasn't that the gym battle was too simple, but purely because Cynthia had surpassed the power level she should have at this stage, plus luck was helping her. The viewers who came to their senses immediately changed their tune. Thanks to Boss Steven's gifted water stone that was truly crucial. True, without Ludicolo holding the fort, I can't even imagine how desperate the battle would have been. Speaking of which, isn't Ayano about to reach this gym soon? Hehe, she's gonna be in for a world of hurt, isn't she? Ayano, what gibberish are you saying? Paralysis tactics, activate. While the chat discussed, as the gym battle ended, Brawly's figure appeared on screen again. He spoke with a satisfied and emotional tone. I have to say, your growth rate is much faster than I imagined. I really look forward to the day we meet again. When that time comes, I definitely won't lose again. With that, he handed Cynthia a boxing glove-shaped badge and a disc. Take this, it's the Knuckle badge. With this badge, your Pokémon's level cap will increase to 23. And this is the trademark for Bulk Up, which allows Pokémon that learn it to boost their attack and defense stats. Also, now your Pokémon can use Flash to explore dark places like Granite Cave. Hearing this, Cynthia was momentarily stunned. Flash? What kind of move was that? She'd never heard of it before. She simply pressed the interaction button and told Brawly about her confusion. What she got was his somewhat surprised response. Hey? You don't know about HMS? Didn't Roxanne tell you? Well then, let me explain. Every time you complete a gym battle and earn a new badge, a new HM will be unlocked for you. For example, the Knuckle badge allows your Pokémon to use Flash in the wild, lighting up dark caves and tunnels, or illuminating the surroundings during nighttime in the wilderness. HMS can generally be learned around gym areas. If you want to learn Flash, go to the entrance of Granite Cave and find an old man wearing a miner's hat. He should be happy to help you. After finishing his explanation, Brawly clapped his hands and stood up. Alright, now I need to continue my training in Granite Cave. See you later, kid. I have faith in you. With that, he turned and walked out of the gym. Cynthia stood there, lost in thought. HMS seemed to be a unique mechanic in this game. This meant there should also be an HM available to obtain and use near Rustboro Gym. If this HM would play a key role in pushing forward the game's content, she'd probably need to consider returning to Rustboro City. It would also be a good opportunity to collect some items around Rustboro City. With this thought, Cynthia glanced at the time in the bottom right corner and was slightly shocked. It was already 12:30 am. She had started streaming at 8 p.m. and unknowingly had been playing the game continuously for 4 hours. When had time passed by so quickly? After brief hesitation, Cynthia sighed softly, looking somewhat regretful. Although she really wanted to continue playing, she probably needed to sleep now. While she had no tasks tomorrow, she was used to sleeping and waking up early. It was a good habit she'd developed. Moreover, if she received another sudden emergency mission tomorrow morning like last time, going in after pulling an all-nighter wouldn't work. With this thought, Cynthia prepared to bid farewell to the live stream viewers and shut down the game to end the stream. But her gaze fell upon the fishing rod in her bag. While it was indeed time to sleep, she'd gotten this fishing rod but hadn't used it even once yet. Fishing for a bit before sleeping shouldn't be a problem, right? Just catch one Pokémon and then sleep. She silently made this decision and headed straight to the seaside. The NPC who had given her the fishing rod had also given her 2 different types of bait. One was old rod bait, with a full 10 portions. The other was special bait, with only 1 portion. The game's description for it was special bait that might hook an incredible Pokémon. So just how incredible could this caught Pokémon be? Would it be relatively rare? Out of curiosity and with a practice makes perfect mindset, Cynthia directly attached a piece of special bait to the hook and cast it into the ocean. Everything seemed to go smoothly. Within seconds, the fishing rod began shaking violently. A Pokémon is on the hook. So she followed the game's tutorial without hesitation and pressed E to reel in. The next moment, a massive figure was instantly pulled out of the sea by the fishing line. This Pokémon had a deep blue, scale-covered body, angry, sharp eyes, and a gaping maw. With its appearance, incredibly intense battle music suddenly began playing. A wild Gyarados, LV38, appeared. Seeing this notification, Cynthia immediately closed the game window without hesitation. Well, it really was time to sleep now. She must be tired enough to start hallucinating. Chapter 38, Threshold Breakthrough. A whole new plan. As everyone knows, while some people go to bed early, others naturally stay up late. At the same time, in Viridian City in the Kanto region, Kairos picked up his cup and took a hearty gulp of moo milk. The sweetness, accompanied by the aroma, went down his throat, and he contentedly sighed to himself. This stuff had no flaws except for being expensive. Well, if he had to nitpick, it was so nutritionally rich that people easily gained weight from drinking it. With this thought, he shook his head slightly. Whatever, consider it a reward for himself. Working on games all day was exhausting, so drinking something good was perfectly reasonable, right? Just as Kairos was pondering this, a notification suddenly popped up before him. You have received emotions of surprise, excitement, thrill, and satisfaction from special character Cynthia, which have been converted to 550 points. At first glance at this notification, Kairos didn't find anything strange. Cynthia was probably streaming the game again. But when he saw the point value at the end, he was momentarily stunned. Why were the points so high this time? You have to understand that for these special characters, as the number of times they produced emotion points increased, the points provided each time would continuously decrease. Just as he was feeling confused, a series of notifications suddenly appeared. Ding! Congratulations, host! Your emotional impact on special character Cynthia has reached a certain cumulative threshold. This character's threshold has now been upgraded to LV2. From now on, the emotion point values you obtain from this special character will return to normal levels. Additionally, you have received upgrade rewards, 1500 emotion points random intermediate game development module X1. Please note, when this special character's emotion threshold reaches the upgrade standard again, you will gain a special character ability related to them. Looking at the series of unexpected notification messages before him, Kairos was momentarily stunned. What was a character's emotion threshold? It could actually be upgraded? But how did Cynthia suddenly reach the emotion threshold? Was she stimulated by something? After brief consideration, he immediately figured it out. Right, it must have been the Regirock temple and cutscene in Granite Cave. For someone like Cynthia, a mythologist, surely everything about legendary Pokémon would spark her intense interest. Being able to witness a legendary Pokémon in that way with her own eyes must have been something Cynthia had dreamed of. After all, in this world, legendary Pokémon had mostly vanished without a trace. So naturally, during today's gameplay, Cynthia would experience tremendous shock. This led to her emotions breaking through the threshold and successfully upgrading. After organizing his thoughts, Kairos's gaze fell on those breakthrough rewards, and he couldn't help but smile slightly. Including the points Cynthia provided this time, plus the mission rewards, it totaled a full 2000 points. On top of that, there was a random intermediate module. This time he'd really struck gold. Moreover, according to the system, if Cynthia's emotion threshold broke through again, he would directly gain an ability related to Cynthia herself. What exactly this ability would be, Kairos really didn't know. But presumably, it should come in handy, right? While pondering, Kairos opened his system inventory and chose to use that intermediate module exchange ticket. As a flash of light passed, a brand new module was drawn and appeared directly before him. High-speed network interaction module, intermediate. Description: after obtaining this module, all games you develop can connect to networks, automatically and quickly capture in-game player data. You can conveniently add features like leaderboards, friends, battles, world bosses, and connect with other modules. Example: can automatically obtain weather conditions in a player's region based on their IP address and change the current weather in the game accordingly. Additionally, this module ensures absolutely smooth game servers without disconnections, server crashes, or other negative situations. Seeing this new module, Kairos's eyes lit up. This was good stuff. Traditional Pokémon games were actually single-player games most of the time due to their platform limitations. With this high-speed networking module, he could conveniently and quickly add various online features to all future game development. As a professional game developer, Kairos knew very well that developing networking features required massive energy and time and was the area most prone to bugs and problems. However, with this module, he could skip all these issues directly. So now, let's apply this module to the game. But before that, Kairos thought for a moment and checked his character interface. His emotion point balance, after the recent windfall plus the points provided by various game players during this period, had reached a total of 2,400 points. These points were enough to purchase another intermediate module. So Kairos opened his favorites list and quickly selected a module to purchase. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have successfully unlocked the Intimidation Materialization module, intermediate. Description: completely recreates the intimidating presence brought by powerful Pokémon and major characters, transmitting it to players' hearts through electronic frequencies, making them feel immersed and catalyzing emotion point acquisition. Your current point balance is 421 points. After buying this module was exactly one of the several modules Kairos had originally favorited, and also a rather important module in his plans. For players to develop emotions toward a game, they naturally need a certain degree of immersion. Modules that increased immersion were essentially also boosting emotion point income. Take today's situation as an example. Just seeing that Regirock cutscene was enough to make Cynthia's emotions successfully break through the threshold. So what if the intimidation materialization effect was added to that cutscene? The effect produced would surely be worlds apart. After all, this module could completely recreate the intimidating presence of a legendary Pokémon, making people feel like they were actually there. With this thought, Kairos immediately opened the Regirock cutscene he'd created before, applied this module's effects to it, and then watched it himself. The result was that he sat frozen in his chair, unable to move for a full several dozen seconds. The moment he recovered, Kairos was breathing heavily, but his expression was incredibly excited. That aura, that intimidating presence, it was just too explosive. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Chapter 39, Brand New Plans and Missions, Ayano Behind Bars? After using the pressure module to modify the CG, Kairos went ahead and made some adjustments to the Regirock temple in the game as well. With everything wrapped up, he clapped his hands together in satisfaction. Now all that was left was to wait for the next lucky visitor. Just then, a series of new notification prompts appeared before him. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have received a new S-rank side quest Wild Sales. Mission requirements: achieve total game sales of 50,000 copies within this week. Mission rewards: random intermediate module X1, 1000 emotion points, special item rare candy gift box X5. He raised an eyebrow. Another side quest had appeared, and this time the requirement was to reach 50,000 total game sales within the week. Without a doubt, this should be pretty easy to achieve. Just earlier tonight, Kairos had checked the game's backend and found that sales were already close to breaking 40,000 copies. Clearly, the game's reputation had spread rapidly thanks to those few videos online. And once the Regirock CG got exposure, forget 50,000 copies, hitting 100,000 this week wouldn't be a problem. After a brief moment of thought, Kairos's gaze settled on the final reward item. Wait a minute. Rare candy? Is this what I think it is, the rare candy that can instantly level up Pokémon after use? As he focused on it, a string of item information appeared. Special item, rare candy gift box. Description, each gift set contains 10 miraculous candies. After consumption by Pokémon, their strength and level will directly receive a significant boost. 5 of these can be freely fed to the host's own Pokémon or given to others, while the other 5 can only be gifted. Note, when the host chooses to gift this box to someone else, the gift box will directly appear at the target person's doorstep. Kairos? This really was what he thought, that mysterious little item from the games that was basically like cheating. Friends who like using game mods should understand the salvation of having 999 candies in your bag. And those who don't mod should understand the thrill of saving these things for level 99 Pokémon. Who would have thought the system's reward would bring this thing into reality? He rubbed his chin. Though he didn't know how much the rare candy would boost Pokémon in the real world, it probably wouldn't be too shabby, right? In other words, if he got this thing, he could directly boost a Pokémon's strength to a very high level. Well, for someone like him who didn't plan to become a trainer, this was secondary. But if he could give them directly to others. Looking at the game network module he'd just obtained, he suddenly had a bold idea. He sat back down at the computer desk, opened the game folder, and began rapidly working away. Meanwhile, it was clear that Kairos wasn't the only one pulling an all-nighter. In the Paldea region, Ayano sat in front of her computer screen with a somewhat twisted expression. Simply put, she was currently serving time in the rock cave. Ayano was really starting to suspect that this game's creator had some serious malice toward electric-type Pokémon. The cave was called Rock Cave, so why were there so many ground-type Pokémon? Sandshrew, Diglett, Onix, Geodude, they were all gathered here like some kind of convention. Every single one of them was an electric type's worst nightmare. This situation forced her to rely on Pikachu's iron tail to constantly break through. If it were just that, it would still be manageable. But the problem was that this cave was not only dark with complex terrain, but also had several Team Rocket NPCs lurking in the shadows, ready to jump out at any moment. Plus, Ayano had just given all her money to that middle-aged man looking for his daughter in Rustboro City, so she couldn't afford any recovery items. So Ayano could only cycle painfully between the cave's second floor and the Pokémon Center in Duford Town. Her misery was truly heartbreaking to witness. Of course, except for certain schadenfreude-filled bullet comments that were laughing hysterically. Ha ha ha, the streamer seems to have such a tough life. Is this the charm of electric-type specialization? Pretty interesting. Ha 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 ha, streamer, why don't you go pick up some trash to make money first before going in? Seeing you this broke makes me feel sorry for you. When Ayano entered Rock Cave for the 5th time, she couldn't help but sigh with mixed emotions. If only she hadn't been so generous when giving that money, she should have at least kept 1,000 or 2 for herself. Now look, she couldn't even afford the most basic potion. She had no idea what use that broken stone the NPC gave her would be. It better come in handy later. Ayano cursed silently in her heart and headed deeper into the cave once more. Her previous trips to the cave's second floor had successfully cleared out most of the Team Rocket NPCs. This time, she finally managed to find Brawly in the depths of the second floor and triggered the storyline to get him back to his gym. Mission accomplished. Ayano smiled and eagerly prepared to leave Rock Cave with her character. This horrible place, full of ground types that was dark and maze-like, she didn't want to spend another second here. But just then, a golden paid comment caught her attention. Big Leak Ducks Leak, streamer, don't rush to leave, the 3rd floor is safe and has surprises, you'll regret not going. Really? Ayano glanced at the chat, feeling a bit uncertain. This wasn't a trick to get her to go down and suffer more, was it? However, she soon noticed that many comments in the live stream were telling her not to rush and to go take a look below. Streamer, go down and check it out, there's really good stuff down there, no lie. What's down there? Why are you all so excited? Confidentiality agreements signed. Spoiling is bad behavior, I won't reveal any related content, please watch for yourselves. This situation made Ayano quite curious. What exactly was on the 3rd floor? She quickly made her decision, took a deep breath, and moved her character toward the passage to the 3rd floor. Alright, since everyone wants to see, I'll go for it. Upon entering the 3rd floor, the scene before her made Ayano freeze. It wasn't dark here at all, instead, light streamed down through a crack in the cave ceiling, illuminating the spacious area around them. It looked quite safe. She first carefully observed the surrounding situation before letting out a long sigh of relief. Phew, thank goodness. It seemed very quiet here, no Pokémon, no NPCs either. But the next moment, she suddenly noticed something. Hey! Why is there a stone tablet here? Chapter 40, The Real Experience, Rankings Update? As Ayano approached the stone tablet and her character touched it, her screen immediately went black. The previous CG sequence played again, causing those in the live stream who hadn't seen it on Cynthia's stream to gasp in amazement. Such incredible technical skill, even more impressive than that ocean scene earlier. Really gets you in the mood, damn, now that's what I call atmosphere. So what are those things? Why do they look so much like text? As people discussed, the CG ended, and Ayano found herself facing the choice interface for the text-filling puzzle game. Though Ayano didn't recognize these ancient symbols and characters like Cynthia did, she wasn't stupid either and quickly figured out what was going on. Is this a word puzzle? I'm good at these. Ayano's face lit up with a confident smile as she patted her chest. After taking a careful look, she selected a symbol and placed it into one of the blank spaces. However, in the next moment, that symbol burst with red light, suddenly trembling before losing its color and returning to its original position. One of the 3 golden orbs of light on the game interface immediately dimmed. Ahem, just a fluke, totally a fluke. This time will definitely work. Ayano cleared her throat a few times, looked carefully through the pile of symbols again, picked up another one, and placed it in a blank space, muttering to herself. This symbol looks just like a bird, I think it should connect to this cloud-like symbol. But before she could finish speaking, the red light flashed again, the symbol trembled and flew out, and the second golden orb dimmed as well. Hiss! Seeing this, Ayano finally realized how serious the situation was. It seemed the puzzle in front of her couldn't be solved just by the symbol's appearance alone. So she'd just have to keep trying. But every time she failed, one of the golden orbs above the panel would disappear. Knowing this game's nature, no matter how you looked at it, nothing good would happen when all 3 golden halos vanished. Ayano pouted. Wait, logically speaking, this puzzle level shouldn't be designed so unreasonably. As if remembering something, she searched around the interface and actually found a book page in the bottom right corner. Clicking on that page, some content about the symbols appeared before Ayano's eyes. This seemed to be part of the symbol content that wasn't damaged, along with some hints for choosing symbols. Like triangles won't be adjacent to squares, circles won't be adjacent to rectangles. Following the hints on the book page, after careful consideration, Ayano picked up the symbol she'd chosen first and placed it in a blank space again. This time, she finally succeeded. The symbol settled into the blank space, quickly integrating into the content and taking on a brownish-yellow glow, as if coming back to life. See? It's actually pretty simple. Ayano smiled smugly and picked up another symbol, placing it in another blank space. However, the next moment, accompanied by intense red light, that symbol came flying out again with a whoosh. Ayano froze, opened the hint interface again, and realized she'd grabbed the wrong one. On the interface, the last golden orb of light disappeared. The entire cave began shaking violently, and the ground beneath Ayano suddenly collapsed, revealing a large hole that she fell into. After the screen flashed rapidly, when the image was restored. Surrounding Ayano were 5 or 6 Graveler with hostile expressions and menacing glares. She froze for a moment. Hey there! Have you guys had lunch yet? The air fell silent for an instant. Graveler! The Gravelers roared as they curled into balls, transforming into dump trucks and charging straight at her. The next moment, Ayano's wails echoed throughout the entire live stream. Don't come any closer. 3 minutes later, after tremendous effort, Ayano finally managed to escape from that pit full of Gravelers and return to the 3rd floor. The chat was absolutely loving it by now. Is this game paying tribute to Rolling Stones? I'm dying laughing. I still prefer how confidently you said it was simple just now, ha 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 ha. If it really doesn't work out, streamer, why don't you go check the recording next door and copy the homework? No shame in that. Faced with the laughing chat, Ayano puffed out her cheeks indignantly. Hey! That was really just a tiny mistake. One more time, I can definitely do it this time. With that, she controlled her character and walked back to the stone tablet. The puzzle interface appeared once more. This time, Ayano entered a completely serious and focused state, repeatedly checking the hints on the book page and placing symbols into blank positions one by one. Her puzzle solving was much slower this time, but once she grasped the key points, she never failed again. Finally, when the last symbol was correctly placed in its blank position, Ayano let out a long sigh of relief and showed a smile. How about that? I told you I could do it. However, when she glanced at the live stream, she found that none of the viewers were praising her. Instead, many were spamming the same comment. Here comes the big one. Incoming high energy. What's the big deal? It's just a puzzle mini-game. Could it really trigger something incredible? Ayano pouted with some dissatisfaction, acting dismissive. However, the next moment... Rumble rumble rumble. The ground around her suddenly began shaking violently. The game screen went black again, jumping directly into a CG sequence. Amid intense drum beats, the earth in front of the stone tablet began collapsing and falling frantically, and a massive dark shadow suddenly rose from the ground. It was a figure as huge as a mountain, constructed entirely of brownish mineral stone, dozens of meters tall. Watching this scene unfold, Ayano couldn't help but freeze in place. What was this thing? This was a Pokémon? Just as she was internally shocked beyond belief. Boom! A terrifying shockwave, accompanied by an incredibly powerful sense of oppression, came rushing toward her. She found her body frozen in place, completely unable to move, almost losing the ability to think. A primitive and savage aura surrounded her, as if a 1,000-pound boulder was pressing down on her head. And all of this was coming from that giant Pokémon dozens of meters tall on the screen. This was its presence. Ayano's heart was pounding wildly, her last remaining conscious thought struggling to form an idea. But, wasn't this just a game? How could a game possibly give someone such a real experience through a screen? At this moment, not only was Ayano immersed in shock and unable to recover, but every viewer in the live stream was in much the same situation. Even through the live stream broadcast, Regirock's powerful presence still clearly and unmistakably transmitted into their minds. You have to understand that the system had completely restored Regirock's powerful aura as a legendary Pokémon, and these ordinary people had never personally encountered a legendary Pokémon before. They probably hadn't even had close contact with a gym leader level Pokémon. Given this, the impact this aura had on them was undoubtedly even more exaggerated. For a moment, the live stream that had been flying with comments fell completely silent, the screen completely blank with not a single person speaking. It took several dozen seconds before people gradually recovered and began posting new comments one by one. This is what you call the big one? This is seriously pretty big? Holy crap, I felt like I couldn't breathe just now. Actually, this thing wasn't like this before, I swear, originally this was just a video. Holy shit, my back is completely soaked, this game definitely has something mixed in. But all else aside, this Pokémon does look really cool. The chat frantically discussed the shock that Regirock's CG had brought them, and Ayano's heart gradually came back to its senses. As a gym leader trainer, she naturally had considerable experience. She had personally encountered the Pokémon of Elite Four champions and witnessed their powerful presence during battles. But even champion-level Pokémon's pressure couldn't compare to even a fraction of what she'd just felt through her computer. So, was this sleeping giant Pokémon actually a legendary Pokémon? After a moment, she shook her head slightly. No, what was more important now was, what did she need to do next? As she pondered, a 5-pointed star altar suddenly emerged from the ground. Next, through voice prompts from the altar, Ayano understood what event she'd actually triggered. So now I need to place some offerings in here to awaken this big guy. Ayano pondered for a moment and opened her game bag to look around. She'd already sold all her valuable items back in Rustboro City. And to explore Rock Cave, she'd long since exhausted all the berries and consumables she could use. In her entire bag, aside from the few Pokeballs the professor had given her at the beginning, there was only one thing left. Her gaze fell on the Ampharos Megastone. Ayano's mouse hovered over the Ampharos Megastone as she considered. This thing looked pretty high class, it should work fine as an offering, right? She took out the Ampharos Megastone and moved it close to the altar, just about to place it into the magic circle. But after brief consideration, Ayano put it back. Forget it. I'll keep it for now. This altar doesn't look like it's a one-time activation anyway. I can come back later. She muttered. What Ayano didn't know was that in that instant, by pure coincidence, she'd successfully avoided the biggest cyber loss of her life. After triggering Regirock's storyline, Ayano retraced her steps, left Rock Cave, and prepared to challenge Duford Gym. However, just as she emerged from the cave, a notification window suddenly popped up on her screen. Ding! The game has been updated. Current version 0.05. Update contents as follows. 1. Slightly optimized the presentation effects in certain legendary Pokémon CGS. Players can now experience the power of these Pokémon more realistically. Looking at this first update item, Ayano's expression became somewhat complicated. You call this slightly optimizing presentation effects? Just now, everyone in the entire live stream was so scared they couldn't even post comments. Even she herself almost couldn't catch her breath. As she thought about it, the second update item came into Ayano's view. 2. Added some online functions. Some features are currently available, and the game will now update weather conditions in certain areas in real time based on the player's current regional weather. Additional online features may be launched later, so stay tuned. This content made Ayano pause. Online functions? Wasn't this game a 100-something MB single-player game? It could actually go online? She closed the update notification window and opened the main menu, finding that 3 new options had indeed appeared. These 3 options were Friends, World Channel, and Rankings. Having played other games before, Ayano naturally knew what these 3 features were for. She first opened the World Channel to take a look and found that quite a few online players were actually talking right now. Piplup eating, hello, anyone there? Obio, yeah, bro, we're here. Zorua's big tail, holy crap, this game actually added a world chat channel. Black Vortex, where has everyone gotten to? I'm still stuck at Roxanne's gym, her Pokemon are too crazy. AA Pokeball Wholesale Lee, +1 to above. Even though it was already past midnight, you could see that quite a few players were still pulling all-nighters playing just like Ayano. After checking the World Channel situation, Ayano thought for a moment and opened the Rankings function. A notification popped up accordingly. Rankings will be based on player game progress. Progress evaluation will be comprehensively assessed based on player Pokémon levels, explored areas, and the number of defeated gyms and NPCs. Rankings will be settled once every weekend. Players will receive corresponding reward packages based on their ranking. Top-ranked players can receive additional special physical rewards. Top rankings actually get physical rewards. Ayano's eyes immediately lit up. Though what a game company could offer as rewards would probably just be plus highs, commemorative cards, and other small items, these physical rewards still had pretty significant commemorative value. As a player who'd started playing on the game's launch day, she was curious about what position her current game progress could rank. While opening the rankings interface, Ayano spoke to the viewers in her live stream. Hehe, the streamer is about to challenge the second gym. Though I can't compare to Big Sis Cynthia, getting second place should be more than enough. The next moment, the rankings appeared. The player's name in first place was naturally 5 golden characters. Progress rank 1, Strawberry Ice Cream. Current game progress, 2 badges, about to depart for Slateport City. Current defeated NPCs, 28. Current team, Ludicolo LV21, Grovel LV20, Stufful LV20. Ayano looked carefully at this information, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve up slightly as she smiled and made a face at the viewers. See? She only just finished the gym, too. I might have a chance to catch up. Alright, second place is mine. With that, she looked down at the rankings below. However, the player appearing in second place wasn't Electric Rising, representing her. It was a player called Dragon Types Rule. Ayano? Who was this? Wait. This name. Why did it feel familiar somehow?
Thanks for listening.